My 26M girlfriend, 24F, has opened up to me extensively about the abuse she suffered. Her stories are starting to contradict each other and I'm starting to suspect something. I am currently in a 3-year relationship with a 24-year-old woman named Kathy. I'll spare you all the details about her personality, but I love her dearly. I fully intend to marry her when the time is right for both of us. On our first date, Kathy warned me that she had PTSD from past trauma. Some of the things that she has told me have been so devastating that they made me physically ill. As we talked and ate, she told me that she lost her virginity to her stepfather forcing himself on her when she was asleep. I, a grown-ass man, started crying in the middle of the restaurant. She assured me that she was in therapy and was working through her issues. As time has gone on, more and more details about her past have come up. I am incredibly happy that she is willing to share all of this with me because I want to support her, but there have been so many contradictions that I'm confused. I don't even know how to bring them up. Here are several of the ones that make the least sense. She told me that her biological father kicked her so hard when she was 7 that it broke her wrist in 2 places. Later when we were taking a bike ride together she said, "I've never broken a bone and don't intend to now." She told me that her mother used to put a belt, a stick, and a wrench on the table and tell her to choose. She said she picked the wrench because, fuck her, that's why. This is a scene from Good Will Hunting, told almost ad verbatim. She has no marks or scars from this. She told me that after her stepfather abused her for several months, she lived for her grandparents for the rest of high school. Later she contradicted herself and said she was homeless and couch surfing for her last 2 years of high school. She told me that she dropped out of high school because she had to escape from a gang who was trying to make her work as a prostitute, but when I met her she was a student at a reputable university. She never went to community college. I don't think it's even possible to get into a school like that with nothing more than a GED. She told me that to cope with her past trauma, she did almost every drug and was barely sober for more than a week for 2 years. Later when we smoked weed together, she got super high and said she had never tripped harder. I don't think someone who has done LSD and mushrooms would say that after smoking pot. It doesn't make sense. I feel like a monster for asking, was she even abused? I could understand 1 or 2 contradictions based on some inaccurate memories, but really? Why the movie scene monologue? Why does everything point to her having a privileged upbringing with the brand new Range Rover she bought as a freshman and fancy college degree with no debt? I don't know how to bring this up or how to make sense of any of this. I can't bring the issue up because if she was abused, it would crush her to be doubted. TLDR, my girlfriend has wild stories about her past abuse, but they're making less and less sense every time she talks about them. As much as I don't want to doubt her, they keep escalating and making less sense. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Can you bring it up immediately when it happens? Her. I've never broken a bone. You. Wasn't your wrist was broken when you were 7? Reply. At the time I raised an eyebrow but I thought she was blocking out her abuse or something. I didn't want to bring up old bad memories. Commenter 2. Compulsive liar, by the sounds of it. Knew a few in college with the exact same kind of track record. The girl in the dorm room next to me only got caught when an RA called her mom to say the girl needed more support given the recent death of her uncle, and mom said never had an uncle. All of a sudden about 20 stories started to unravel. Reply. I have suspected that she is a compulsive liar, but aside from the outlandish and self-contradicting abuse stories, I can't find anything that she has ever lied to me about. Maybe she hides her other lies better. Would it make sense for a compulsive liar to only lie when it comes to one subject? Commenter 3. Aren't Range Rovers over 50K? And no debt from a fancy college? Sounds like she's lying through her teeth. Reply. Yeah, I looked up the price of her car when it was new. Well over 50K. Commenter 4. Sure sounds like she made it all up. Have you met her family? Reply. At least one detail I'm fairly sure that's true is she hates her family. I've never met them. Update. Hi again everybody. A lot of people have expressed interest in an update to my situation, and since the situation is finally resolved, I figured I would take a minute to write out what happened. Admittedly this actually ended last week, and, spoiler alert, I spent the following several days moving out. I haven't had a chance to update. A whole lot of thoughts on the matter have been stewing so I'm afraid this is going to be long. For those of you who just want to know what happened and move on, she lied. We broke up. She tried to save our relationship by lying. I have ghosted her. For everyone else, my last post can be found here. A short synopsis of the situation is that my girlfriend spent the entirety of our relationship opening up to me about how she suffered horrific abuse from just about everyone in her personal life, yet her stories did not add up in the slightest. After reading through nearly every single response to my post, I came to 2 conclusions. 1, my girlfriend was lying about, at the very least, the extent of her abuse, and 2, she was only going to continue escalating these lies unless I put a stop to it. Many people told me both in comments and DMs that if I were to directly confront her about my suspicions, she would immediately gaslight me, or deflect by calling me a monster for not believing her. I agreed this was likely, and so I went the route of stalking her on social media. I'm not proud of it, but I spent well over 10 hours stalking her on Facebook. I hadn't logged into Facebook since early in our relationship, but she seemed to be using it fairly often. Through my search, I discovered two things that she couldn't possibly explain away. She has another Facebook she uses for close friends and family. The Facebook page she has me on is reserved for friends from online games, giveaways, and so on. This all came to light when I started messaging her Facebook friends. I sent them a copy-pasted message, "Hey, I'm Clara's boyfriend. I know this is out of the blue, but would you mind if I asked you a question?" I wanted to get her a gift and was hoping for a bit of advice. The majority of the people didn't respond. Fair enough. I assume many of the messages got automatically filtered. Of those who did respond, the vast majority didn't really know Clara, or only knew her online or didn't remember her at all. It was bizarre. Where were her college friends? Her not having high school friends would be right in line with what she told me before, but I know she has friends from college because she hangs out with them regularly, or at least she did until we went into lockdown. Eventually I figured it out. She had another Facebook. It was a total stroke of luck that led me to it. She happened to have one single friend who was on both of her Facebook pages, and when stalking her friend's friends, I found my girlfriend's second page. On her real Facebook page, everything she told me completely unraveled. Dozens of high school friends. Pictures from her high school days, ranging from class trips to dressing room pictures of her trying on new clothes to her sweet 16. Pictures with her parents with whom she seemed very happy to be having her picture taken. Pictures of her standing in front of a very large, very non-ghetto suburban house. Then I found the picture of her standing in front of her brand new Range Rover. At this point I had already decided our relationship was over. There's no explaining that. If she had mental illness so severe that she had deluded herself into believing everything she told me, she needed therapy, not a boyfriend. If all of those stories were just plain old lies, I wouldn't even know what to feel. Taking advice from the last post, I decided to ask about the Range Rover. I wanted to expose her and figured it was an innocent enough topic to bring up out of the blue. She was sitting on the couch reading a magazine, and so I walked up and asked her about her car. I said it was really nice, and if she had inherited some money or something to be able to afford it. She gave me a long theatrical inhale and exhale. She then asked me to promise not to be shocked, but it was Pandora's box. Knowing that she was about to feed me another helping of bullshit, I told her I wanted to hear it anyway. She covered up the Range Rover purchase by telling me that when she was homeless, she was forced into prostitution by an abusive pimp. She said that with the money she saved by overcharging clients and hiding tips from him, she was eventually able to afford the car. Then she asked if I still loved her despite her past. So that was the end of that. I called her a liar on the spot. Aside from everything else, what really ticked me off about this lie is street prostitutes don't make nearly enough money in tips to be able to buy an expensive car and pay for a college education. Then I told her that I saw her real Facebook. All of those pictures. For the first time in our relationship, she didn't have an explanation. I started my move out the next morning, the lease be damned, and finally was done with it in 3 days. She has frantically texted me saying she could explain and she was ready to tell me the truth. Yeah, the truth. I'm almost tempted to ask her for it just so I can experience another wild tale, maybe this time it being about her experience with witness protection on the run from the mafia or some other ludicrous story. Thanks again for all of the advice and help everyone. I feel like a total idiot for wasting 3 years of my life with her, but I have high hopes for my future. I'm going to take a break from dating for a while though. Right now I'm staying at a buddy's house who has been nothing short of amazing. She does not know where I am. TLDR, yes, she was lying. She had a second Facebook where she hid her real life. She wants to explain things to me, and I think I would rather get my teeth pulled out with a wrench. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. She sounds like a narcissist, to be honest. I know someone exactly like this. Also, you called her Kathy in your other post. Reply. I just screwed up and thought she was Clara before. It has been 2 weeks. Her real name looks nothing like either. Commenter 2. One thing I don't understand is you mentioned the Range Rover in your original post, but I don't see it referenced in any of your stories. It sounded in this post like seeing her with the Range Rover was a surprise, but it was just that she got it as a teenager. Also, have you contemplated messaging her parents? It's kind of surprising that somebody with all of those stories wouldn't have her Facebook locked down. I would almost post something and tag her. The whole thing is so weird and sick. I'm sorry that you experienced it. And, yes, if you've been on this ride for this long I would be curious to know what the truth really is. Reply. The Range Rover thing was because despite her roller coaster teens, she somehow was able to afford it, brand new, from her first year of college. That made no sense to me. She never really went into detail about it and I never asked until I decided to confront her about it. Stories number 2. AITA for refusing to recover at home after surgery. I, 29F, am really disappointed with my husband, 30M, and furious at his mother, Hag-aged F. Sorry this is so long. And throwaway for privacy. For context, my husband is from the West Coast, where his mother still lives. He moved to the East Coast for college and that's where we met, after graduation. In the start of our relationship, she would visit 3 to 4 times a year and make him take PTO so he could entertain her throughout her visit. After 2 years of this, while we were still dating, I asked him how we are ever meant to go on a vacation together, if his PTO is spent at home with his visiting mother. We agreed to save PTO for a trip to Europe we took in 2023 and he agreed to tell his mother he couldn't take off from work every time she visited. In my last job, I was able to work from home 4 days a week and every time she visited, she sulked all day like a puppy who's had her toys taken away. But once my husband came home, a switch flicked and she was happy, and clingy, again. So here's the issue now, husband and I moved states about 6 months ago, closer to my family. I have a new doctor who recommended me for a surgery that my old doc kept putting off. It's not a complicated procedure and it will greatly increase my quality of life for decades. My mother-in-law decided she's due for a visit and wants to explore our new town and she'd come to help around the house while OP recovers. I'm going to be out of surgery and in pain and I really don't want to put up with her energy. However, we agreed, with my husband saying this isn't a sightseeing visit, she's here to help out, cook, clean, laundry, etc., so I can rest and recover. She can come for a proper visit later in the year. My husband dropped me off at the hospital on Wednesday. It was meant to be surgery, then one night overnight at the hospital for observations. On Thursday, the doctor told me my labs were not where he'd like them to be and I should stay another night for observation and new lab work in the morning. I called my husband and told him that I'd hopefully be home the next day over the phone early afternoon. He did not visit on Thursday at all. On Friday I was discharged and called my husband to tell him that I'd be ready in about an hour. It went straight to voicemail and I figured he's probably in a meeting and I'll try again in a little bit. After calling a few times over the course of over an hour, I called my sister, who was lucky enough to be excused from work for the afternoon, many thanks to her understanding boss. She drove 90 minutes to get me and took me home and the house was in shambles. Laundry baskets on the dining room table, the litter box not cleaned since Wednesday morning, days of dirty plates in the sink, etc. I just broke down crying. She packed me a bag and took me to her apartment to recover for 2 weeks. On Friday night my husband called me asking me where I am and that the hospital said I was already discharged. He had been on a hike with his mother and there was no cell phone service so he missed my calls, which also meant he took PTO for his mom's visit again. Obviously, I can't ban him from taking PTO, but wouldn't you rather spend that freed up time with your wife at the hospital instead of on a date with your mom? I told him that I no longer feel comfortable recovering in our house and I won't be returning until it's thoroughly cleaned and his mother is gone. He's calling me the because his mother just wanted to get to know our new area and I wasn't able to leave the hospital, anyway, and that I was making a big deal out of this. I yelled that he essentially abandoned me at the hospital and entertained someone whose being here was to help make recovery easier, not more stressful, and that she was here for support, not on a vacation. Maybe it's just the pain and pain meds, but am I in the wrong here? Is this a stupid hill to die on? There's a part of me telling me to see a divorce lawyer just to see what my options are because I'm not sure this will ever change. I know this is going to sound incredibly selfish, but I want kids but I now don't see myself having any with my husband in the foreseeable future. And if this isn't going to work out, I don't want to spend the next 5 years of wasting time and money on therapy and missing a chance to find someone I actually can start a family with, someone who can be a committed father and husband before he's a son. Many thanks to anyone who's read all of this. Comments. Commenter 1. He left you alone in the hospital. He went somewhere without cell service when he knew you were being discharged. He didn't call you back until that night, hours after you were meant to be discharged. This man is ridiculous and that is unforgivable. Let his mom have him. You are not overreacting thinking about divorce, and you are definitely anti-edit. Thank you all for the upvotes and awards. Commenter 2. This being unreachable while your wife is in the hospital is despicable, but he must have had missed calls and messages from her because she called him when they wanted to discharge her. Did he not have fucking voicemails from her that said, "Hey babe, where are you? They want to discharge me. I need you to come pick me up." And he never called her back. Commenter 3. It is despicable and unforgivable. Then the house on top of it. I don't think I could come back from that. Commenter 4. He's her next of kin. Who was going to make medical decisions if there had been an emergency or she required further surgery and couldn't consent? This man isn't worth the carbon he's made from. Commenter 5. What the flying fuck? He is the asshole. His mother is the asshole. You are not an asshole. No, I didn't fall on caps lock, I am mad. NTA. Additional, this is not a stupid hill to die on. You're dying alone on that hill. Because your husband will be hiking with his mother around the hill and ignore you. Go and see a lawyer. He left you when you needed him the most. Update. Hi all. I posted a month ago about my husband basically abandoning me at the hospital to entertain his visiting mother. I thought I'd post an update. We're done. I'm still at my sister's place and my boss is letting me work remotely due to the commute, but I have an apartment I'm moving into in July that's a 10-minute drive from my job. Thank you to everyone who responded. It was a bit overwhelming. I went into defensive mode and thought I put my husband in a bad light, but you all really slapped the rose-colored glasses off me. We spoke on the phone every day the first week I was away. He asked his mother to leave ASAP so I would feel comfortable coming back home. After a week I told him I still needed space and I was coming the next day to grab more things. Once he saw that I had an empty bag and my sister brought 2 empty pieces of luggage, he realized I'm taking a lot because I'm not planning to come back soon. He asked to talk and I figured we should get it done and over with. I told him we needed to separate. He tried to argue that his mother only visits a few weeks out of the year and that things are great otherwise. I told him that the issue is he expects me to be okay during those weeks with him ignoring my feelings to cater to hers. I said things don't magically go back to normal once she leaves, there's resentment towards him for weeks for him doing it again and self-hatred for me allowing it to happen again. He asked to go back to couples therapy. I told him it didn't work last time. We had a great therapist who helped him put boundaries in place and to be able to deliver consequences when his mother overreached. But as soon as she'd arrive, she'd break one boundary, he'd let it pass, and then she had carte blanche to stomp on them all. And when I tried to reinforce them, I'd get no support and I'd be the bad guy. He's where I may have been a bit mean. I told him I'm turning 30 this year and I want to start a family. But I can't see starting one with him. If he can't put me first when I'm just out of surgery, why would I think he'd put our children first? I reminded him that his mother is retiring in less than 10 years. What happens when she decides she's frail and lonely? I asked him if he'd move her and whether I was okay with it or not. He replied, I'm all she has. It really hit me then. This was not the life I thought we were building together. It was not the life I wanted or could settle for. He asked if he was really that bad of a husband. I sorta lied and said, no, but you're just not the husband I need. I told him he either needs a wife who's okay with being the side piece in his relationship with his mother or no wife at all. I left with my sister and 10 minutes into the ride back to her place, his mother called me. I sent it to voicemail. I started laughing and my sister asked what was so funny. I said, the first thing he did was call his mommy and tattle on me for leaving. Papers have been served and it's been pretty amicable so far, fingers crossed. Comments. Commenter 1. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Commenter 2. He called his mom immediately. Congratulations on ditching that loser baby man boy. Commenter 3. If OP needs any other indications that she did the best thing for herself, this detail right here. Commenter 4. He already has a wife, her name is Mommy. Commenter 5. Yup, he's a great husband to Mommy and a shitty one to OP. Stories number 3. My 15-years-old idiot kid got his GF pregnant on purpose. I 30F have a child who is 15M, we'll call him Ollie, plus other children aged 2, 6, 9 and 11. As you can tell by my own age, I was teen parent. I was lucky and we married at 18, still married, healthy relationship, worked our way out of a very dire situation, graduated, started a trade, etc., and we are comfortable, stable in all ways. This information is relevant. Ollie has been friends with this girl, we'll call her Bree, since he was 7 years old. Their family used to live in the same city as us and went to the same school, same friendship group. We know her parents and are long-distance friends ourselves, not close friends but say hello when the kids are on video chat, had drinks together before. Bree's family moved to a very small town 3 states away due to rental affordability. No secret, we all have talked about the rising costs of everyday life. The cost of living in this city has risen, forcing many locals out. They moved because of that and for better job opportunities 18 months ago. Since then, Ollie has been begging for us to follow, giving us a sales pitch on cheaper housing, better paying jobs, none of which fit either of our professions, the whole works. We have said no because, well, no, but even if we wanted to, our other children are in school, sports, and have friends here. Selling and buying another house, finding work outside of our skill set or having to learn new skills. Any normal adult would understand this, he does not. Well, fast forward to Christmas. Bree's family come back to our city for a holiday and the kids met up multiple times with each other. It was my understand that they were always with the other kids, but obviously not since Bree is pregnant, and I am certain it was on purpose. He has access to condoms. I don't care for opinions on that. My access was restricted and I had him. He has had sex ed from me, my husband, school. He knows damn well how babies are made and how not to have one. Ollie now wants me to move to be with her and the baby. It's confirmed. I've talked to her parents, and I said no, I don't feel I need a reason, but he asked. You're 15. We don't have any proof at your child yet. I'm not moving us away from our lives and you aren't going alone until you're 18. We will do a DNA test, then we will look at parenting plans, and topped it off with a too bad, too sad. You made your bed, now you have to sleep in it. He took that back to Bree and now all communication between me and her parents has been cut. I'm a terrible person. My comments about the DNA test are disgusting and it's fueling my son's hate for me. He says I am keeping him from the love of his life and future baby using my own successful relationship as proof it will work out. I actually don't even know if I am right or not. I'm just really upset and feel like my life I worked really hard for has been destroyed. Edited for update. She is due September around the 22nd, so no, there is no option for abortion. I don't think that or adoption ever was. Ollie admitted it was on purpose last night. Apparently, it was Bree's idea first, as a joke, that turned into a plan together. Bree's parents will only pass messages through my son, and I have heard this for myself. I stood outside the door and listened to them tell him, tell you mother, insert info below, because I know I will just go off on her about that bullshit still. They are talking shit about me with my kid. They are appalled I would think that way of Bree when I have known her for more than half her life and do not wish to talk to me. I will not allow him to move out there alone. There are some past issues such as Bree breaking up with him twice in the last 18 months because she found someone that she liked more her new town, around August and October last year, same boy, and when it ended, she came back to Ollie. Bree is a nice girl but her behavior is toxic and has been since a child. Her mother and stepfather are nice but the relationship is unstable, the house is chaos, 9 children combined, blended family and 2-3 teens with serious mental health struggles. He would be leaving stability for chaos and no structure. I want a DNA test, I will not budge on that. I am close to cutting his contact totally at this point because they are only empowering him and reinforcing his behavior towards me and his father. His father is a man of few words, which is unhelpful. So far he's backed everything I have said and only really chosen to say, you have the intelligence of a pear. Update number 2 May 30th, things have gone south even further. At this point husband and I have been blocked on all social media and numbers blocked, but the communication with Ollie has continued. Ollie gave us Bree's parents' email address to send an email to, but before using that I asked him to video chat Bree with me there, and then I could ask Bree to please get her parents so I can talk to them about this and tell her that if they were going to continue to refuse then I would be blocking all contact to Ollie and communication until this is resolved. I told Ollie this before the call. At first he flipped out about it, but it was this or I cut communication completely. I do think he understood that it is not okay that her parents are speaking to me through minors, and he said himself he would like us to talk to each other. Bree joined the call and hung up when she saw I too was there. Ollie called back a few times and she didn't answer. She asked via text why I wanted to talk to her and Ollie told her that I wanted to speak to her mother and if we didn't resolve the communication issue then all contact would be ended until her parents made contact with us and we make a plan for the next few months, including DNA, and then birth arrangements, said that if the baby is his we will travel there for the birth and first few weeks after. He told her that I personally think it probably is his baby but I want to be sure and make sure everything is done right from the start. Well, Bree blocked him with a reply, and he is totally heartbroken, not eating, sitting in his room all day and night, not mad at me surprisingly, very, very sorry for him and to us, sad about it all and I think regretful. He even asked me if there was a way to undo it for himself. I haven't talked about signing over rights, male abortion, his father called it, because I think he's just upset right now. A mutual friend of Bree and Ollie's here in our hometown showed him a few posts she has made in the last 24 hours. Things like, it's you and me against the world baby girl, and memes about deadbeat dads. She also announced the pregnancy which she hadn't done yet and the post had some single mother facts and quotes. Ollie's friends knew about the situation, and a few were under the impression he had dumped her and the baby, going by the posts, but when he explained that what had happened, they all rallied for him in the comments. I said not to, and now she's blocked them, and we can't see what she has posted. This is just a nightmare. I have had a plan personally, not set but something I wanted to talk to her parents about, but I don't even want to waste my time at this point. Ollie gave us Bree's parents' email address to send an email to with said plan. Basically, Bree does DNA blood test. We will pay the full $1,500 for it, if it is his baby we can book flights and plan to be there for the first month, I'll stay too with Ollie, maybe even the whole family, and then we can also work on a parenting plan and getting into mediation for a judge to sign off on it. Ollie's father and I spilt for the first 7 months of his life, so we have done this before and we know the process. But at this point I think I will just leave it to settle before sending an email. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, nobody going to point out both children are manipulative? Obviously the girl was on board and it sure seems like they both kept it under wraps until it couldn't be aborted. Both children are bad actors here. Reply, this I think it was planned 100% on both sides and this was Christmas. She's around 24 weeks I believe and way past abortion. They also never told us until 20 weeks. Her family knew but never contacted me. Commenter 2, quite the manipulative teen you got there. But by teen logic, his plan makes perfect sense. From any point of view, you can't give in to his plan, though. It would ruin you financially, ruin his relationship with his siblings, and yours with him. I would give him a detailed plan on how you and your partner manage to rise above all the risks of teen pregnancy. Focus on school, plan ahead, make sure the village is on board. And of course, how lucky you both were, that it all worked out, despite having to sacrifice so much. How does he expect you to support his child, without your jobs? But he made the choice to become a parent. So now, he will have to do what you did, focus on school, get stability, make sure to stay in his and her parents' good graces, so they can be the village they will desperately need. There is nothing he can do to support his GF physically. And as a jab, he's done enough physical support for a good while to come. He doesn't have a job. No way to provide financially. All he can do is focus on being able to do that as well and as soon as possible, so by the time he's ready to go partying, no. No, he isn't. He's going to bed early to get up for his weekend job, to save up for his kid. Edit to add. I just realized that if this becomes a family tradition, you'll be great-great-grandparents by the time you turn 60 lol. Commenter 3, he's 15. You get to make the decisions and you are doing the right thing. No way can you move your whole family because of this. The responsible thing is to do a DNA and set up a parenting plan. He won't like your decisions, but that's too bad. Sometimes being a good parenting is making decisions our kids hate us for. This is a result of their bad decisions, not yours. Commenter 4, reality is about to hit that kid like a fucking train. Commenter 5, a 15-year-old does not get to dictate terms on uprooting the whole family and ripping his siblings away from the only lives they know. A 15-year-old does not tell his parents what they'll do. Full stop. Junior here can sit down and reflect on how badly he has ed his own future. That is the limit of his power right now. He is 15. He will do as he is told. We can see here that he has the decision-making skills of the average parakeet. Feel free to tell him that. He does not even know if it's his child. Insist on that. Update again June 3rd, Ollie's friend was able to see her Instagram through an old account, different email. I don't use Instagram enough to know what that means, but it meant they weren't blocked when they reactivated. They found the pregnancy announcement post, and if you scrolled across it showed a digital copy of the scan Bree sent us as a 16-week scan, apparently the first scan she had at the OB. That is dated 0404 and clearly says GA 19 plus 3 weeks, making an August due date I believe or very early September. This would not line up with the due date given to us but does line up with when her parents told me she was pregnant mid-April. They told us, we've had the pregnancy confirmed, and sent a photo of the printed pic which the date isn't on there. I actually think it may have been cut off the top. I haven't told Ollie this yet because I want to be sure. I am very concerned about his mental health at the moment and taking that into considerate. But unless she gave the wrong period dates and the baby measured only 16 weeks, then it's not possible for it to be our son's. Also added information, her due date from what we know is September 22nd. She was here from December 20th to January 7th and saw Ollie December 21st and 22nd and January 4th and 5th. Never overnight. I asked Ollie when did this happen, and he said January 4th was the only time, which makes more sense as they were in public gathering. Otherwise, they were at a mutual friend's birthday that night but never stayed overnight. I have had 5 kids and I know the dates are too close to figure it out that way. Ollie also said that the joke Bree made was to just see, if it happens, the pregnancy, because then it's obviously meant to be and he would be able to move. To me it sounds like she had the plan a lot longer, but I may be biased here. Relevant comments. Is OOP cutting her son's communications off with Bree? Sorry if it sounds childish. I'm only updating because I have no one to ask or talk to. I don't want to reach out to other parents I know or FB without knowing it's actually my son's child first, and to be honest I am embarrassed. I threatened to cut off Ollie's contact to Bree only because her parents were encouraging his attitude towards us at home. Commenter 1, So what you're saying is that the most immature people in this situation are Bree's parents? I expect teenagers to make questionable decisions, although generally not to the extent of, get pregnant on purpose so we can force people to move, but the parents are a whole new level of WTF. Reply, I am wondering if Bree has somehow maybe manipulated the situation there. I couldn't imagine being like this, and the family I have met before did not appear this irrational in the past. Commenter 2, is her social media public or private? If it's public, then sign out. In some social media sites you can see without being a member. Then you can track what she posts. Are you even sure she is actually pregnant? Is she showing yet? Has she sent ultrasound photos? She could be lying about being pregnant in the first place. The fact she blocked your son and friends shows it's probably not his. Hopefully your son realizes how horrible this girl and her really are. Reply, her parents confirmed she was pregnant. She is not really showing, no. She sent a ultrasound photo, but it's a photo of a photo. I wanted to keep access to her social media to see if she uploaded on that showed more information so I could check dates. I will see if your advice works. Commenter 3, definitely don't budge on the DNA test. You never know, especially with her seeing the other boy. Commenter 4, honestly the parents' reaction to the whole situation is very odd, especially if you claim they didn't seem this way in the past. I agree with the sentiment that Bree might be twisting the narrative to her parents, just as she is twisting it online with the whole deadbeat dad posts. I would very much stay firm with the DNA test. This might sound bad, but honestly I wouldn't trust her without proof based on her current actions. Stories number 4. SIL expressed I don't deserve our new house. Now husband's family is melting down. My husband, 38M, and I, 33F, just bought our first house. My husband has a pretty high-paying job. I work and make a decent salary, but our budget to buy our house was definitely influenced more by his earnings. We had his family over last week. Generally I loved his parents, they've always been really good to me and they're fun. I have not spent as much time with his sister outside of holiday gatherings, but we do have her son, husband's nephew, stay with us for a week over the summer the last few years, so I know him well too and love him. So everyone mentioned above comes over and we show them around the house. At one point I'm showing SIL a kitchenette in the basement and I say something like, it's great that our house has this space now, so if you want to visit us you'll have basically a separate apartment. And she goes, our? Is it also your house? I'm immediately confused, but also I guess she could have assumed my husband bought it on his own. I said, yeah, we bought it together. And she goes, do you think you deserve to own half of this house? I don't know, I just think that's crazy. I was shocked and I mostly panicked, said, well I do, yeah. And fled the basement. I immediately told my husband, away from his family, and he in turn immediately went to talk to his sister. I went to hang out with his parents and didn't say anything to them, but then we heard shouting outside. My husband and his sister were yelling at each other. I know people are different with their siblings, but I've never really heard him yell before. I could hear him tell her that we don't have a prenup, and she called him an idiot. I had to tell his parents what was going on. They went and intervened and left pretty quickly with his sister and nephew, who didn't hear any of this through the magic of video games I think. His mom said sorry to me on the way out. I did touch base with my husband and he was livid, like way more angry than I'd expect. He told me that before we got married his sister was the beneficiary of his life insurance and he thought she was angry over essentially being removed from all his assets, but we've been married 3 years. She apparently had texted him about being added on to the house paperwork a few weeks ago during the buying process and he just ignored her. His parents have reached out to me and have been very sweet apologetic, but they really want to fix things and have asked if I'll talk to SIL. I'm trying to step away from it and just say it's now between my husband and his sister. Is that fair? Of course I'm a bit hurt by her saying that, but at the end of the day if she has problems with how he's handling his assets that's between the two of them, right? I feel really bad because his family has always been so sweet, and I really love his nephew, so I also want things to be fixed. Edit. Wow, this blew up a bit. I will make an update. We have plans to chat about it today and speak with his patents and figure out how we want to go forward. I agree with essentially all of you, and I'm not planning to discuss it with her until she apologizes. And to answer some common questions, nephew's dad is not and has not been on the picture for a long time. SIL has been in and out of relationships with not the best types of dudes. She is younger and there's no other siblings. Yes, there's been a pattern of her getting more help from their parents, but it's because she really needs it with being a single mom, and my husband has always been pretty independent. I promise I don't tell every person on the street about our lack of a prenup. My husband did come into the marriage with a lot of assets, so I think when his friends and family expressed curiosity about a prenup it was coming from a place of concerned care for him, and I love that, so it felt appropriate to share how we made that decision. No one ever pushed back. I've never talked to his sister about it, and I think she didn't know, but my husband sort of yelled it at her in anger in a, "we don't even have a prenup" way. We are planning on kids, but could still keep up what we currently do for nephew even if we did, and he just became an official teenager, so the college fund is close to complete at this stage. We don't add much money to it anymore, it's just accruing. Update: SIL expressed I don't deserve our new house. Now husband's family is melting down. Holy shit, y'all, I was not expecting that much feedback. But I'm super grateful. It was really affirming and validating to read a lot of those comments, and a bit humbling, too. This recent move did move us a little bit out of town, so I'm still close to my social circle, but didn't immediately have someone to vent to, and you all were really helpful in that way. To update, she was secretly planning his murder to get the life insurance money. No, not really. After talking a bunch with both my husband and his parents, we figured out a few things. He didn't tell her that he's replaced her as the beneficiary on everything because he assumed she would know that. So she had texted him during the home purchase, "Hey, do you need my signature on anything for this new house?" He had messaged her back, "No." She then essentially asked if the house was an asset, set up like his life insurance. And he told her that everything is set up fine and that I'm on all of paperwork, and she's responded, "Okay," smiley face. So I do think part of this is her truly not knowing how marriage is supposed to work, and she seems to have expected there wouldn't be any change. I found out she also mentioned this with their parents, her main concern being that if something happened to my husband, I wouldn't help her son like we've been doing as a couple. MIL and FIL say they told her not to worry and that I love our nephew, but that was what was going on behind the scenes before all this. MIL and FIL also admitted that they may have unintentionally encouraged this, because they've always really encouraged their kids to support each other, but due to the various dynamics at play, what that ends up being is pressure on my husband and a sort of, "your brother will always be there for you" message to his sister. This was particularly strong in the last few years before I met and married him, because his parents thought he was planning to be a lifelong bachelor. They're not wrong in this, he definitely had that mindset at a time, and so then he and his sister really were, in their eyes, each other's lifelong person. So the last few years there had been this level of fallout I wasn't even aware of due to that. I also learned SIL is in a not great financial situation, and due to past issues the whole family essentially refuses to give her cash but will do things like buy groceries or pay a phone bill. So she's been struggling and I think feeling a little desperate and jealous. Of course none of this is an excuse, and I'm not speaking to her until I get an apology. My husband has also said he needs at least a week or two before he speaks to her, but he does plan to. His parents are totally in agreement and understand. They are going to tell her that we talked about the dynamics at play and that she needs to acknowledge what is going on here and take accountability for her part in it, so hopefully that will kickstart things in the right direction. Being too understanding and too flexible has been a difficulty for me for a long time. Having feedback about how truly fucked up that situation was really helpful for me, so thank you. For me there's a fine line between being unbothered and being a doormat, and I'm definitely working on differentiating those two. Stories number 5. AITA for not wanting to tell my sister that her boyfriend is the father of my son. Hi, I'm not really sure how to start this. I'm in a really uncomfortable situation and would appreciate some outside perspective. Back when I, 24F, was in college, I had a serious relationship with someone I'll call Luke, 26M. We dated for a little over a year and were pretty serious. Near the end of our relationship, I got pregnant. It wasn't planned, but I decided I was going to keep the baby. Luke initially said he'd support me. We agreed to tell our families and figure things out from there. The next day, he disappeared. No calls, no texts. A couple days later, I got a package in the mail with some cash and a short note that just said something like, "for the abortion." That was it. I never heard from him again. I was angry, embarrassed, and honestly overwhelmed. I ended up moving back home and raising my son on my own. I didn't tell my family who the father was. I just said the relationship didn't work out and that I didn't want to talk about it. They didn't push. Fast forward to now, my son is 2, and things are okay. I have support from my family, I'm working, and I've found some stability. A few weeks ago, my sister, 28F, told us she was bringing her new boyfriend of a couple months to her birthday dinner. She seemed really happy about it, so we were all looking forward to meeting him. It was that goddamn motherfucker Luke. We both immediately recognized each other, but neither of us said anything in front of anyone. I left the dinner early. I think I just felt stunned and unsure how to even process it. Later that night, he came by and asked if we could talk. He told me his parents found out about the pregnancy back then, and that they pulled him out of school and cut him off from me completely. He said they were the ones who sent the money and the note, and that he didn't know I'd gone through with the pregnancy. He thought I'd had an abortion and that it was over. I don't know how much of that is true, but he did seem genuinely surprised and shaken. We talked for a while, and eventually he asked if I was going to tell my sister. I told him I wasn't planning to. I said I didn't want to create unnecessary conflict, especially if the relationship was new and might not go anywhere. That was a few weeks ago. I haven't told my sister anything, and Luke hasn't reached out again. But I've been sitting with this, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to lie to my sister, but I also don't want to cause drama if this relationship fizzles out on its own. At the same time, if things don't fizzle and he stays in her life long term, it feels worse to stay quiet. I've been avoiding being around them, which I think she's noticed. I don't think she suspects anything, but I also know I can't avoid this forever. TLDR, my sister is dating my ex from college, who is also the father of my son. Neither of them knew the connection at first. Now he knows, but she doesn't. I'm not sure if I should tell her. Stories number 6. AITA for not wanting to tell my sister that her boyfriend is the father of my son. Hi, I'm not really sure how to start this. I'm in a really uncomfortable situation and would appreciate some outside perspective. Back when I, 24F, was in college, I had a serious relationship with someone I'll call Luke, 26M. We dated for a little over a year and were pretty serious. Near the end of our relationship, I got pregnant. It wasn't planned, but I decided I was going to keep the baby. Luke initially said he'd support me. We agreed to tell our families and figure things out from there. The next day, he disappeared. No calls, no texts. A couple days later, I got a package in the mail with some cash and a short note that just said something like, "For the abortion." That was it. I never heard from him again. I was angry, embarrassed, and honestly overwhelmed. I ended up moving back home and raising my son on my own. I didn't tell my family who the father was. I just said the relationship didn't work out and that I didn't want to talk about it. They didn't push. Fast forward to now, my son is 2 and things are okay. I have support from my family, I'm working, and I've found some stability. A few weeks ago, my sister, 28F, told us she was bringing her new boyfriend of a couple months to her birthday dinner. She seemed really happy about it, so we were all looking forward to meeting him. It was that goddamn motherfucker Luke. We both immediately recognized each other, but neither of us said anything in front of anyone. I left the dinner early. I think I just felt stunned and unsure how to even process it. Later that night, he came by and asked if we could talk. He told me his parents found out about the pregnancy back then, and that they pulled him out of school and cut him off from me completely. He said they were the ones who sent the money and the note, and that he didn't know I'd gone through with the pregnancy. He thought I'd had an abortion and that it was over. I don't know how much of that is true, but he did seem genuinely surprised and shaken. We talked for a while, and eventually he asked if I was going to tell my sister. I told him I wasn't planning to. I said I didn't want to create unnecessary conflict, especially if the relationship was new and might not go anywhere. That was a few weeks ago. I haven't told my sister anything, and Luke hasn't reached out again. But I've been sitting with this, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to lie to my sister, but I also don't want to cause drama if this relationship fizzles out on its own. At the same time, if things don't fizzle and he stays in her life long term, it feels worse to stay quiet. I've been avoiding being around them, which I think she's noticed. I don't think she suspects anything, but I also know I can't avoid this forever. TLDR, my sister is dating my ex from college, who is also the father of my son. Neither of them knew the connection at first. Now he knows, but she doesn't. I'm not sure if I should tell her. Stories number 7. AITA for asking my husband's Italian friend to cook for herself, and told her I would not eat her food. My husband's friend flew in from Bellagio, Italy a week ago, and, as much as I tried, I could not make her happy with any type of home cook, or even restaurants in Melbourne. Took her out to restaurants, we wanted to introduce her to the variety of food we have. No sushi, no Thai food, no Chinese, because Italian food is the best. We went out for Italian 3 days in a row. She complained about pasta, about cheese, anything is just not as good as in Italy. She complained about the wine not tasty enough. She got mad when I dared to order a cappuccino at 4 p.m., because we don't drink cappuccino after 12 p.m. I was just like, yeah, I drink WTH I want at the time I want. Coffee was either too burn, or not hot enough. We went to Kohl's to do some shopping, straight away complained about no authentic Italian pastas, and in the middle of the aisle, decided to teach me how properly say the name of each pasta. We decided to cook at home today. Mind you, I am Asian, I love my spices and I love flavorful dishes. I decided to cook what I know best, did not think it would be a bad idea. She came, and the first thing she said was, "Your house smell bad, fish sauce," and she proceeded to ignore my dish and asked my husband to take her out for some lasagna. When she got back she told me I should learn how to cook Italian dishes, because it is not good for my husband to always eat fusion food, online recipes are just stupid for straying away from the root, WTF. I was so mad and did not mince words. I told her how arrogant and obnoxious to think Italian food are the best, told her Italian are not the best, and we would not take her out for any Italian meals, she could go shopping for herself, cooked it and enjoyed alone. Sorry, but the ingredients would not be as good as in Italy, but she was in another country, be grateful for what she could find. She cried and decided to leave early. My husband tried to tell me that she is set in her way, she does not travel that much all her life. 60 years, this is the second time she travels out of the country, the last time was to Germany, and it was well over 25 years ago. He told me maybe I should just say sorry to her just to smoother the situation. I refused, told him if she cannot live without her Italian heritage for just a few weeks, there is no point for me to convince her to like me anyway. So AITA, Stories number 8. My direct reportee refuses to accept he reports to me, and it's becoming a joke at work. Here's one for all the managers who've had the delight of dealing with someone who simply refuses to acknowledge reality. I have a guy on my team, let's call him Adam. He actually joined the company before I did, but after a recent restructure, 2 subdepartments were merged under my line and Adam was officially reassigned as my direct report. Everything is clear, the org chart, HR systems, his training assignments, all of it shows he reports to me. But from day one, Adam has acted like that isn't the case. He constantly bypasses me to go directly to my manager. If I assign him work, he either delays or goes silent, then later circles back to my manager asking about the same task, like he's looking for a second opinion. In team meetings, he noticeably disengages when I speak. Arms crossed, distant look, and he only perks up when my manager talks, often just to chime in or try to poke holes in whatever I've said. The best part? His corrections are usually wrong and just make him look worse. Multiple teammates have told me that Adam has openly claimed he doesn't technically report to me. This, of course, has become running office satire. Someone once joked about how the org chart ends in Adam's world, and now he's low-key roasted behind the scenes for it. One colleague even flat out told him to cut the crap. Naturally, he didn't. The ironic part is that no one else has this issue. Everyone else knows the structure, asks me for approvals, and takes feedback or assignments normally. But Adam? He seems convinced he's on some invisible dotted line special mission under my manager. He isn't. Even my manager's boss noticed it and told me to straighten him out, otherwise, he'd put him on notice to HR. During a recent monthly review, when Adam contradicted the numbers in a report I made, our business head actually joked about firing him on the spot. To hit the point home, I've stopped bending over backwards to accommodate him. No more urgency on his time off requests or time card issues. I do approve them, just a few days later, and only after he's reminded me 3 or 4 times. Not out of spite, just trying to let the system speak for itself. If I'm not your manager, why would you expect me to handle your admin tasks? I've raised this with my own manager, who's a little too empathetic, conflict avoidant, to tell Adam to knock it off or otherwise he will manage Adam himself. We're technically aligned, but in practice, my manager keeps asking me to help Adam figure it out, because unless you spell things out step by step and basically design the entire solution for him, Adam has no clue where to start. I expected challenges as a manager, sure. But not an identity crisis from someone who simply doesn't want to be managed. It's exhausting. So yeah, if you've ever had a delusional direct report who acts like you're just a coworker with clipboard privileges, I see you. Stay strong. ETA, to all the funny folk talking about me being a bot, I made a rambling post and used AI to structure it. Hope that should help you not waste your precious time making a comment. Stories number 9. I, 29M, broke my wife, 28F, S heart. How do I save my marriage? My wife and I have been married 4 years, and together for 6. I love her deeply, however recently I have developed an infatuation for a woman I work with. I did not cheat and have a strictly work relationship with her. I recognized my feelings as a mere crush but still felt guilty, and needed to talk about it. About 2 months ago I posted on a forum, not Reddit, about this woman and found sympathy. It helped me understand how crushes in a LTR work. A month ago, I came home to my wife having printed my post. She confronted me and as I was taken by surprise I didn't really know how to explain myself. I couldn't lie either so I just apologized to her. She read me my post while crying. I cannot post it entirely here but basically I said she was a breath of fresh air, the reason I'm happy to go to work, I wish I could hold her in my arm and know how she smells, I often dream of her, sometimes I lie down and imagine her in front of me. These were things I was thinking but couldn't say out loud, they were things that could have been written in a diary. They were private thoughts and I never imagined my wife would read them. In the end it is just a fantasy. Ever since that day, my wife has barely spoken to me, she refuses to discuss it and won't look at me in the eye the rare times she addresses me. She moved into our guest room. She told me she was getting ready to divorce and would file when she has enough money and that I shouldn't hope, that I am free to pursue that woman. I understand why she is hurt, but it is just an infatuation, it is not comparable to the love and history I have for her. How can I get it through her? She told me she never had feelings for another man and that I betrayed her, she won't stay married to a man who yearns for another woman. I told her I would change jobs but she just said I'll still dream of her. She is completely closed off. What can I do? I apologize for errors, I am stressed and not a native English speaker. TLDR, my wife wants to divorce after reading a post about how I have an infatuation for another woman. I love her and don't want to divorce. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. So, have you gotten a new job yet? What have you done to show your wife that you're serious about your marriage and that she's the only who matters to you? Reply. She won't let me talk to her, or touch her, sometimes she will leave the room when I come in. She is like a wall, I tried buying her favorite flowers and wrote a card but she didn't take them. I am invisible to her. I was looking for jobs when I informed her I would change jobs to avoid the woman but she told me not to bother as she was leaving. In this economy I cannot easily risk being unemployed, especially if I will end up divorced. Commenter 2. There's an innocent crush, and then there's wanting something to happen between the two of you. Your wife knows this, everybody knows this, and you should know this. You wanted to hold your coworker in your arms, etc., etc. It's not the fact that you have a crush on someone, it happens naturally and is human nature. It's the fact that you have a crush and wanted things to happen between you two, and that's what broke your wife's heart. Also, in the first place, if you wanted to keep your thoughts private you shouldn't have posted it on the internet. Update. I had forgotten about this post and I am back to update, so maybe seeing my stupidity could prevent someone else from making the same mistakes. I cringe when I read today what I wrote months ago, and it seems ridiculous to me that I could have felt this way about another woman. I wrote that I would imagine my former coworker while lying in bed, but in the end when my wife stopped acknowledging my existence, waking up without seeing her face was just absolute torture. I really took all I had for granted until I almost lost it. So I took some of the advices and decided to court my wife again the hardest I could. Of course the first step was looking for another job, and it took me a month, but I managed to find a similar position in another enterprise. I did what was suggested of taking over every chore and she stopped ignoring me but would simply stare at me with some kind of hostility and go on with her life. I tried flowers but she would leave them to die. My wife's dominant love language is physical, but I wouldn't dare try touching her, so I went for telling her. I somehow realized it was really the content of what I wrote about the other woman, which obviously when you are deep in a crush is amplified, that really hurt her. I tried engaging her in conversation so we could talk about what was happening to us, but more importantly what I did to her, but she remained closed off. And so I started writing her letters and would leave them under her pillow. At first I apologized for everything, for writing the post, for not putting an end to the crush faster, for making her feel like another woman could hold a higher place of importance to me, and for not taking the initiative to change jobs earlier. For making her life hard by creating this situation which ended in her sleeping in the guest room of her own house, for making her cry and causing stress to her. Then I wrote her love letters telling her how much I loved her, how the crush couldn't compare to the deep love I have for her. I was chewed for saying I loved her because of our history in my last post, but I was misunderstood. I meant that the love I have for her has gotten stronger with time. 5 years ago I loved her, but wouldn't have given her one of my organs if she needed, for example, while now I would without hesitation. Our history is what caused the attachment to grow stronger, therefore no random crush could override that. I was awed in front of my crush and wrote sappy things about her, but in the end I do not know this woman on a personal level while I have seen the worst of my wife, and the love remains. I told her how beautiful she was and how impressed and proud I was with her development as a person since we have met, how grateful I was for her presence in my life and every single thing I was thankful for that she did and enhanced my life, how much I needed her and missed hearing her tell me how her day went, laugh at my bad jokes, and basically just missed hearing the sound of her voice. This is a small sample, but it must have taken a good 3 weeks of daily letters until she answered me back. She answered with a letter of her own telling me how much I have hurt her with my crush, how I made her feel invisible next to that woman, how I never told her such loving words, until the letters, how much she hated me but also how she loved me and missed me too. Her letter allowed me to feel her vulnerability. After reading it I cried and went to see her, we locked eyes, she cried and we held each other for a long time. She started talking to me again then and softened. Honestly, the possibility of the marriage ending just like that scared the both us. As of today we are, to my surprise, mostly back to normal, and actually I feel closer to her. We continue with the letters which have helped increasing our emotional intimacy. I make an effort to tell and show her my love. I am very grateful that she has given me a second chance and even more so that she has decided to put the crush behind us. We had maybe 2 fights since but she hasn't brought it up and doesn't punish me. It really wasn't the crush on itself but how I went about it and the lack of affection from my part in comparison. Maybe I am being optimistic here but I truly think we are going to get through this. We will be going to couple counseling after our vacation just to make sure things are really settled between us. TLDR, I managed to get my wife back after working on the way I conveyed love to her and we are doing alright. Final comments. Commenter 1. It's nice how hard you are trying. The thing you need to continue to work on is not stopping this once you have got her completely back. For me I would never get over what you said. I would have filed for divorce immediately. I'm glad things are working out for you though. Reply. Thank you, I do not plan on stopping. I realize I wasn't putting enough work into my marriage before. Terrible Dragon 4 higher. Yeah buddy. Save the letters, and when you have a fight, or you forget how much you love her, you break that shit out and remind yourself. Commenter 2. I would kill or die to see my late wife again for even 1 second. Treasure her and don't fuck up again. Stories number 10. AITA for telling my son that I'm not inviting his mom to my wedding. I, 33M, was 17 when I got my high school girlfriend, Zoe, 32F, pregnant. We lived in a small and conservative town, and her dad was one of the most influential people there. He told me that if I didn't marry her, he would be pressing charges of SA against me. So, I was forced to marry her in a shotgun wedding. She was emotionally abusive and manipulative, and made my life an absolute living hell. She quit her job so that I had to increase my working hours, so that she could bond more to our son and manipulate him, and alienate him from me by painting the narrative that I was an absent father. As a result, my son despises me. One day, I caught her cheating with her now husband, and I walked out then and there. I decided that I was no longer going to be afraid of her dad's threats, and that I will give her a divorce. She screamed and cried, and her dad had his goons beat me up, but I didn't bend. Even then, her dad used his influence to give me the least possible custody possible, every alternate weekend, by saying that I wasn't bonded to my son at all and I would be an unfit parent to live with the majority of the time. Soon after the divorce, I met Miriam, 32F, and we hit it off. She proposed, and our wedding is set next month. My son told me that he won't come to my wedding if his mom isn't invited, and I told him that he can feel free. My mom's calling me an asshole, saying that he's a troubled teenager, and this is gonna alienate him even more. Stories number 11. My, F23, boyfriend, M28, had a complete switch last night when it came to sex. I'm having a lot of anxiety today. Why would he make a complete switch like that? I've been with my boyfriend for around 2 years. We have a great relationship and have always had a great sex life. He's always been respectful in bed and when we've tried new things we always talked about it. However, last night after our Valentine's dinner I was hopping out of the shower and he just grabbed me and threw me on the bed. But not in a way that we'd ever done before. He was very aggressive. I immediately tensed up and he just kept telling to say things like, I submit, and, I'll do anything you want, and other things. He's just never asked for anything like that. It was all really rough, it hurt, at one point I was in tears. I didn't tell him to stop. I was shocked because while we've done some things like that but never to that extent. He was smacking me and really chalking me. Covering my nose and mouth. He held me down. There were multiple times through the night he woke me up like that. I woke up this morning with some bruising and I'm sore everywhere. He's never done that. We had drank plenty of wine and I was definitely drunk and he was too, but still even on drunk nights he's never done anything like that. I told him I was heading out this morning for a workout but I just didn't want to sit next to him anymore. My anxiety is so bad I don't know why he didn't talk to me before doing all of that. Has anyone had a partner just switch like that in bed? He was perfectly normal this morning. He made breakfast for us. He asked if I wanted to go on a walk with our dogs. Like last night was no big deal. I don't know how to talk to him about it. I feel awkward and embarrassed. The way he talked to me and just touched me made me feel gross and small. I just don't know what would make him think that's okay. If I'm overreacting or if I'm being a prude. I promise I'm not kink shaming. I'm just really confused why he's never brought this up during the time I've known him and we've been dating. TLDR, my boyfriend started having really rough sex with me last night out of nowhere. I am having a lot of anxiety today. I don't know how to talk to him about it because I feel like I didn't voice that I didn't want it. He's an amazing guy and I've never ever had this feel or problem with him. He's always been respectful. How do I talk to him about it? Comments. Commenter 1. Your feelings are valid. What he did was not okay, not in any way. Your instincts are right, this kind of sex requires explicit consent beforehand and lots of conversation. He failed to do that. He chose to do the things he did. You are not a prude and you are not overreacting. If you don't feel comfortable or safe talking to him in person, do it over text. You can use your own words from your post or anything from the replies here that rings true for you. Do not allow him to downplay what happened. Do not allow him to make it about his own hurt feelings if he's somehow surprised by what you tell him. He hurt you. He should feel bad. Let him. Don't tell him it's okay. It's not, and know that not saying no or stop in the moment is really common. It's like being in shock, many people freeze. It's a human reaction and it doesn't mean you were at fault or wanted it to happen. He chose to do those things, not you. Take care of yourself. Reach out for support. Commenter 2. Also, imagine the roles reversed. Could you continue having sex knowing that your partner is in pain from something you are doing? Could you get off from causing pain and fear to your partner? And don't let him downplay that, either. Your face said it all last night, even if your voice failed you. Update. Hi everyone. I hadn't planned to make an update because it just seems weird to do so, but I've gotten a lot of messages about my safety and just wanted to let everyone know that I am okay. We did speak about what had happened that night. Mainly because he kept moving forward as normal and I had had a panic attack during one of his attempts at initiating sex. I broke down and told him what happened. I showed him the bruising and told him that I was genuinely scared of him. He also broke down and admitted to me that he had taken ecstasy that night. A few weeks ago he had asked if I'd ever be interested in taking it and I thought he was joking. I said no and the topic was never brought back up. I completely forgot about the conversation. He still had some left over and went and got it from his truck to show me. He seemed incredibly apologetic. Begging me to forgive him and said he'd do whatever to make it work and give me time and space. He also offered to pay for couples counseling and individual therapy for me as well. We had just moved in together in a condo he had purchased. He agreed to let me stay there and he is staying with a friend in the meantime. We aren't broken up but just seeing if this is something I think is salvageable. I really love him and I really want to believe this is something that happened in a drunken high night. He says he doesn't remember it and seems very remorseful. Even with that I recognize it wasn't okay and doesn't make it better and brings up a whole new issue of him taking something like that without talking about it. But that's really all the update is. I know it's not what the vast majority of you wanted to see. But it's just where I'm at now. Thanks for all the support. TLDR, he had taken Molly without me knowing and is saying he doesn't remember anything. We're in couples counseling and I'm in individual therapy. Comments. Commenter 1. Is that all he took? I know nothing but I've never heard of people showing that level of aggression with ecstasy. Commenter 2. Exactly, I didn't know that turning into a rapey asshole was a side effect of E. Reply. He said that's all he had taken. But at the same time he got it from a friend who used other things. So who knows? I've never taken anything like that to know what it's like. There's still some left that I thought about testing. Just to see. Like I said, if we can come back from this. But I'm hoping in therapy I can work through everything myself. Commenter 3. You can't come back from this and trying is only going to hurt you more and more. Walk away. Stories number 12. I stood in my partner's best friend's wedding, and his wife made me wear a wig. Coming to the internet because A. This is a batshit insane story, and B. I have no idea how to move forward. Any and all advice is greatly appreciated. There's a bit of backstory to cover, so apologies for the exposition. My partner Joe, 24M, and I, 24F, have been together for 8 years and married for just under a month. Yay. Jay's best friend Seth, 23M, and I have known each other since before Joe and I met. About a year and a half after Joe and I started dating, Seth started seeing Mia, 23F, and the double dates commenced. I've never been a huge fan of Mia since she's the type of person to eat 3/4 of her meal at a restaurant then complain to the waitstaff until they comped the meal, among other things. In the summer of 2021, Seth bought a house for himself and Mia that needed a lot of work due to prior flooding. My partner and I went out there, and Joe and Seth did some work on the plumbing and subfloor. A few other times Joe went out there to help with other stuff, and by the end of 2021 Seth had the place renovated into a pretty nice house. He and Mia invited us and some of our friends from the friend group out there for a New Year's party. They have a pretty nice detached garage pole barn situation, so they got it set up with beer pong and speakers and stuff, meaning people were going back and forth from the pole barn to the house. At one point it was just Seth and I in the house mixing drinks, and he confided in me that he wasn't entirely happy in his relationship. He talked about how Mia called him names, laughed at him, yelled at him, etc. and asked what he should do. I said what my partner would have said, we have a spare bedroom if you need it. Every time we went out to Seth and Mia's house, Seth would find a way to confide these things in me. They gradually got worse, too. She threw stuff at him, slammed doors so hard they'd break off their hinges, stuff like that. Every time I'd remind him we had a spare bedroom, but I couldn't outright tell him to leave her. It didn't feel like my place to make that call. Don't get me wrong, I definitely told him he deserved better, but I wanted him to connect the dots for himself. In October 2022, while at a Halloween party, Seth showed me a picture of the engagement ring he'd gotten. I don't remember much of the conversation beyond him asking if his proposal plan sounded good. I told him yes, I congratulated him, I did all the things I thought a friend should do. A month later, there are beautiful photos all over Facebook announcing the engagement, and announcing that the wedding date was set for October 2023. In February 2023 Mia asked me to stand as a bridesmaid in her wedding, and I genuinely was shocked. We didn't talk much, even at their house parties. My partner, of course, was asked to be the best man, and he instantly accepted. I didn't know what to say. They'd asked us in front of the rest of the wedding party, and I hadn't been expecting it at all, so I accepted, too. It made me nervous thinking about it, but if that's what they wanted, then I was going to do my damnedest to make this wedding work for them. Despite everything Seth had told me, it wasn't my place to cause a scene about it. In March, Mia asked me to make sure my hair was a normal color for their wedding. It's worth mentioning that at the time my hair was a light lavenderish color, and I'm no stranger to impulsively dyeing my hair a vibrant color. I told her I'd of course make sure it was a normal color, but she'd have to tell me what color. In honesty, because my hair is always a different color, the request didn't bother me much beyond lamenting having to grow out whatever color she told me to go. Shit really started to hit the fan in August on the bachelorette weekend trip. The drive up was about 2 hours, and Mia spent most of it telling us about the latest wedding drama, that her parents had decided to take all of the money they'd been setting aside for a wedding venue and use it to refurbish their pole barn. Mia's parents were demanding that Mia and Seth work long hours pouring concrete, putting up walls, and retiling roofs, so the wedding could be held there. Mia talked about how her mother had been especially rude and condescending about the whole thing, calling her an ungrateful bitch when Mia talked about wanting the wedding to be somewhere else. I felt so bad for her, and I felt even worse when Mia's mother, along with 8 of her friends, crashed the bachelorette weekend. We were outnumbered in this Airbnb to the point that I had to sleep on the floor. There were 9 women, all 50 or older, impeding on Mia's bachelorette weekend and drunk the entire weekend, throwing up into the lake off the paddleboat. They crammed all 9 of themselves onto kind of way star. Mia had been looking forward to one of those lazy river situations where you rent a bunch of inner tubes and coast down a river and all that. The morning of, though, these women decided it should be put to a vote whether they went, no doubt because some of them were still drunk and some were hungover, and the overall consensus was to skip the tubing that all of the bridesmaids had already paid for and instead hang out at the Airbnb. I grabbed a few pre-rolls from my luggage, took Mia by the arm, and sat out on the front porch with her. We shot the shit about everything, not just the awful turnout of the Bach party, but everything else. I felt like we really connected out there, talking about our partners and their friendship and what it would be like when we had kids and they'd have an extra aunt and uncle. For a long time, I thought Seth and Mia would be the godparents to my husband and my kids. A month before the wedding, Mia called an emergency bridal party meeting at their house. Per usual, my partner and I were the first ones there. Once the rest of the bridal party got there, minus Seth's little sister, she was left out of the bachelorette party trip too. We talked about the schedule of the day and how the bridal party would make entrances to the venue. At one point, Mia, who was quite drunk by then, pulled me aside and reminded me about the hair color. My hair at the time was split-dyed red and pink. I asked her what color she wanted me to go, and she said, "Copper would look so good on you." About a week and a half before the wedding, I went out and got a brownish copper hair dye and did the job. Since I colored my hair pretty frequently, it wasn't the healthiest, and I tried my best to do hair masks and stuff to make sure it wasn't too brittle for styling on the day of the wedding. Then, a week before the wedding, my partner proposed to me. I, of course, posted pictures all over Facebook, and my hair in the pictures was copper. The Tuesday before the wedding, Mia texted me and asked if the color of my hair in those photos was how it would be for her wedding day. I said yes and reminded her that I'd asked her what color to do, and she had told me copper. She denied ever telling me that, and that she would never have suggested copper, since my dress was cinnamon-colored. She told me to send her a picture of myself wearing the dress so she could see if the colors clashed too badly. Before I could even send a photo of myself in the dress, she told me to just dye my hair an actual normal color. This turned into a massive back and forth of me telling her that I didn't have the money or time to go out and get my hair redone, and I was afraid if I dyed my hair again so soon it'd break off and be even more awful. I offered to step out of frame for her pictures. I offered to have my hair up so it wasn't touching the dress. I offered to suggest to her photographer that they color correct my hair. Her mind was made up, though. She told me she'd have me wear a wig for the entire day. I told her I certainly couldn't afford a high-quality wig, and she told me she'd pay for it. The entire bridal party had gotten a text from Seth and Mia requesting all of us be at the venue, about an hour and 45-minute drive, at noon the Friday before the wedding to help do final touches before the rehearsal dinner at 5. Of the entire bridal party, my partner and I were the only ones who showed up at noon, everyone else didn't show until 5 or later. We went up to Seth to greet him, and the first thing he said to us was, "Is it too late to call it off?" And in proper supportive friend fashion, we told him, no, reminded him of our spare bedroom. I'd had a nightmare the night before of the maid of honor beating the shit out of me when she saw my hair, so when she finally showed around 5:30 and came right up to me, I nearly pissed myself. She held out her hand and pointed to her ring finger. It dawned on me that I had, indeed, gotten engaged a few days prior, easy to forget, given all the other stuff going on, and I held out my hand so she could see the ring. She gushed about how beautiful it was, and she told me she needed to talk to me outside after the rehearsal. Fair enough. I confided in her when we stepped outside that I was terrified she wanted to beat me up, and she told me the whole story of the texts, how she had told Mia not to send them and to let her handle it, how her work friends had read all the screenshots Mia sent and thought she was taking things way too far, etc. We talked for a long time, and at the end of it she said she'd check with Mia on where the wig situation stood. Before the end of the night, she pulled me aside again and confirmed that Mia wanted me to wear the wig the entire night and that she wouldn't settle for an updo or anything of the sort. The MOH then invited me to spend the night with the rest of the bridesmaids at Mia's house, which I politely declined. I was expected at a salon about an hour from my house the next morning at 8 a.m., and I arrived at 7:45 just to be safe. The rest of the bridesmaids, along with the bride, all showed up shortly thereafter. The salon is owned by one of M's mom's cousins, who also happened to be at the bachelorette weekend. She was one of the dumbass puking off the side of the paddleboat. She got me in a chair before I had even set my bag down, and by 8 a.m., I had the most hideous wig slapped onto my head. She didn't even style it, didn't even bobby pin it down. It took 10 minutes, max. The other bridesmaids got their hair styled in super cute curls and waterfall braids, and I sat there with an unstyled, unflattering wig on my head that wasn't even properly covering my hairline. We got our makeup done at the salon, too, by a different lady. When I sat down in the chair she asked me if I was okay, because nobody was speaking to me. I asked her if the makeup was waterproof or anything, and she told me to just try my best not to cry. She ended up doing my makeup pretty quickly, too, and in all I spent maybe a half hour in a salon chair. The other bridesmaids had way more time for hair and makeup, and between the way the wig looked and the fact that none of them would even look at me, I excused myself to go out to my car. I have never cried the way I did in that car. I called Joe, who was riding with the groomsman I was going to walk down the aisle with. I tipped my head down so the tears wouldn't leave tracks in my foundation. I scream-cried that I wanted to go home and that I couldn't keep doing this. I told him how I felt like I was back in middle school and high school being bullied, all because I did what the bride told me to do. I dyed my hair the color she told me to dye it. He reminded me that I wasn't standing in the wedding for Mia, but for Seth. I told him I couldn't even do it for Seth, because S knew about the situation, Joe had talked to him about it, and wasn't willing to stand up for me. Which, I'm not saying I expected him to stand up to his soon-to-be wife for another woman, but it doesn't change the fact that I couldn't handle the pressure and the bullying. Joe told me then that I should do it for him, and that after this we'd figure it out. After the ceremony, Al, the groomsman I had walked with, caught me crying. We were all supposed to be taking photos, and I couldn't stop thinking about how these people were supposed to be the godparents to our future kids, and they couldn't even stand to have me in the photos without a wig on my head. I went into the house and came out with one of those little pocket-sized shooters of Pink Whitney for me. After dinner, I slipped out to go to the bathroom, i.e. cry a bit more and call my mom. My mom told me to take the wig off and get a ride home, and that it wasn't worth it. I told her Mia was making me keep it on the entire night. Before she could really convince me to get the hell out of there, Joe tracked me down. He didn't know what to say, he just held me for a while, then told me I had to come back because they were starting speeches. Shortly after the dancing really got going and the sun had fully set, Al started asking me if it had hurt if he yanked the wig off. I told him they hadn't even bothered to pin the damn thing down. I told him not to, because I didn't want to face the wrath of Mia. He asked me if I would rather spend the rest of the night miserable, and I shrugged a shoulder and told him to do whatever he wanted. He yanked the wig off and tossed it on one of the empty tables, then told me, if Seth or Mia have any shit to say, you tell them to come say it to me. A few of the wedding guests even came up to me and said that my hair, despite being braided tightly to my head for the wig to lay on top, looked much better like this. In the days following the wedding, Mia started sharing photos to Facebook, but none of them had me in them. I couldn't tell if I was more relieved to not have to see the palpable misery on my face, or furious that she had me put on a wig just to exclude my face from all the posts anyway. I fell into this horrible despair. I thought I'd be relieved to be done, but instead I was left with this gaping feeling. My partner and I had just stood for his best friend, and my close friend, on the most important day of his life, and we had nothing to show for it. There would be no showing our kids photos from Aunt Mia and Uncle Seth's wedding day, because that wasn't me in the photos. And even if it was, they didn't bother to send us any photos from the day at any point. 2 weeks after Seth and Mia's wedding, we were hosting a Halloween party, partly as a gift to the newlyweds, and partly because they usually hosted Halloween, and we wanted to give them a break. They said they would come, but the night before the party they cancelled on us. As frustrated as I was to be throwing this party for them only for them to cancel, I can't say I wasn't a little relieved. I didn't know how to talk to either of them after that day, and I didn't want to be forced to figure it out quite yet. The beginning of November, a month and a half after the wedding day, Joe sent Seth and Mia a message in a group chat without me in it. The message reiterated that they are always welcome at our house. We were hosting Friendsgiving at the end of November and had extended the invitation to them, but that we were both incredibly hurt by what went down with the wedding. Joe requested an apology for the hurt I was put through, especially after Mia told me to dye my hair copper, then tried to tell me she never would have said that. Mia responded that I was just mad because I didn't get what I wanted, that we were asinine if we thought she'd see my ugly-ass hair and do anything other than throw a wig on my head, that she wouldn't apologize for something she's not sorry for. The following day, Seth called Joe to apologize. Apparently he told Mia not to send the message. He told Joe that he thought I also owed Mia an apology for taking the wig off at all. During that phone call, Seth said something along the lines of being done with the friend group, that he only wanted to hang out with Joe, over all of it. The friend group, who already didn't have the best impression of Mia even before all the shit went down, was unanimously fine with that decision. The day after Seth and Joe's call, Mia sent me a one-on-one message, novel, about how she would have dyed her hair whatever color I wanted for my wedding, because there are temporary colors, and it'd fade eventually. She also accused me of not knowing her well enough to be saying what I was about her mother back during the bachelorette trip, that I was being stuck up, and so on and so forth. I typed up a similar length response, and I'm proud to say I kept it civil. I reminded her that I did dye my hair the exact color she wanted, that I just refused to do it a second time in fear of frying my hair or making it look worse. I apologized for what I'd said about her mother, but I also told her that if I didn't know her well enough to talk honestly with her about something that was deeply troubling her, I never should have been standing in the wedding in the first place. I told her that if I was stuck up, I would have taken myself home instead of still standing in the wedding party, despite everything she put me through. It took 2 days for Mia to respond, and she replied with, after processing, I feel like I owe you an apology. End of message. We expected to see them at Friendsgiving and try to smooth things over in person, but Seth texted Joe a literal hour before they were supposed to arrive and said that Mia wanted to go look at Christmas lights, in a city almost 2 hours away. Joe was faced with the impossible decision as we grew closer to planning our own wedding of whether Seth could be his best man. Ultimately, Seth made the decision for him by blocking me on Facebook and removing me from his contacts on everything. For a long time, that was it. Seth and Mia were strangers to us. We didn't even invite them to our wedding. The reason I hashed this all out now, though, is that I'm left with an impossible situation, and I need help. In March of this year, about 2 months before Joe and my wedding, Seth called Joe while Joe was at work and asked what had happened to them. Joe asked if he was joking, and when he realized Seth wasn't, he laid it all out, the wig, the non-apology, the name-calling, all of it. Apparently Seth and Mia don't have anyone to hang out with anymore, mostly due to the way they treated me. Seth must have taken notes during this phone call or something, because a day or so later, Seth sent Joe a long apology for me. Apparently Mia had written the apology that I needed over a year and a half ago, gave it to Seth, and Seth gave it to Joe. Joe had been looking for the right time to tell me about it. He said it sounds sort of legit, but he also admitted that it sounds like Seth had written it himself. All of this is with the intention of Seth and Joe hanging out together, which, let me be clear, I never prevented. I encouraged Joe to keep up with Seth, I just didn't want anything to do with him. The moment Mia had that wig put on my head, it's like she and Seth became strangers to me, so that's why I'm here. I haven't read the apology, and my partner said he wouldn't blame me if I never wanted to read it. Even typing this all out is reminding me the kind of emotional turmoil they put me through over this. What's the play? Do I read the apology? It sounds like Seth and Mia want to go back to double dating and house parties like before. Is that a possibility? I genuinely don't think I could ever look either one of them in the eye again, but do I owe it to them to my partner to try? TLDR, my husband's best friend's wife asked me to stand in her wedding, told me to dye my hair, didn't like the color and put a wig on me, told me she wouldn't apologize for something she's not sorry for, and she and her husband are lonely 1.5 years later and want to rekindle our friendship. Update, I stood in my partner's best friend's wedding, and his wife made me wear a wig. I, 24F, posted a few days ago about my husband Joe's, 24M, best friend Seth's, 23M, wedding. Here's the link to the original post, but the TLDR is that Seth's wife Mia, 23F, asked me to stand as a bridesmaid in their wedding, told me to dye my hair copper, told me after the fact that she never would have said to go copper, made me wear an unstyled wig the entire day, called me crazy and told my husband she wasn't sorry, and now over 1.5 years later is trying to apologize via a letter to my husband to give to me. Update. I told my husband I'm not going to read the letter. The apology is a year and a half late, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a load of bullshit intended to get back to being friends with him. If they truly cared about me in this situation, they'd never have called me crazy. They'd have apologized the minute I expressed how hurt I was. They wouldn't have done what they did in the first place. Joe is a huge believer in giving people room to grow and learn from mistakes, which is why he told me about the letter in the first place and not just burned it himself. After our talk, he realizes what kind of damage it would do to me to let Seth and Mia back into our lives, even if they have grown and changed. I don't need to be their human empathy test subject. I truly hope they become better people, but given they're reaching back out because nobody else will be friends with them, I doubt they truly have. As for the comments, I had a lot of people asserting that the outcome of this is entirely my fault, and that I let myself be walked all over so I deserved everything that came to me. While I don't entirely disagree, I do think that even in my longest post there's a lot of context missing. To start, Joe and Seth have been best friends for over 10 years at this point. If I caused a scene at Seth's wedding, even warranted, I feared what it would do to their friendship. The friendship basically ended either way thanks to Seth's wife, but I digress. I wore the wig because I didn't want to rock the boat. I was young and naive and didn't actually think Mia would make me wear a wig until the morning of, when they were slapping a wig on my head and shooing me out of the salon chair. I'd heard from Mia firsthand how much stress she was under due to the wedding and her insane mother, and I thought being a sounding board for her and being there for her would have made her have a change of heart. Instead I became the target. She couldn't very well bully her mother, so she bullied me instead. There were also a lot of people calling me out about Seth pulling me aside and telling me how unhappy he was, and again I think you're missing key context. I didn't just tell him, we have a spare bedroom for you, and leave it at that. I talked at length with him about these things. I told him that he deserved better, that he could come stay with us for as long as he needed to figure things out, that no matter how deep the hole he dug himself felt, we were there to get him out of it. He had a house and pets with Mia. He worked with Mia's dad. She had successfully made herself a part of every piece of his life, and in our conversations, I told Seth that Joe and I could help him detach however he needed. I even told him he was being abused, especially when it came to things being thrown and doors being slammed, but Seth is of the mindset that men can never be the victims of domestic violence. I wonder if that mindset has changed by now. Point is, I said everything but outright telling him to leave Mia. Maybe that's what the comments were getting at, is that I should have spelled it out like that. The day before the wedding, Seth asked if it was too late, and Joe and I told him no. We told him he could get in the car and we could drive away with no questions asked. Seth is a grown adult too, he chose what he did. Lots of people were coming after my husband, as well, and I can't lie, Seth and Mia's wedding definitely did some damage to our relationship. I left that situation feeling like no matter how many times Joe told me I was the most important person in his life, there would always be something, or someone, that could get in the way of that. Things were rocky for a bit. He was apologetic the moment the wedding was over, wishing he'd taken the wig off my head or gone to the salon and picked me up and taken me home. Hindsight is 20/20, I guess. If either of us had known that no matter what, Seth and Mia were going to completely isolate themselves, I wouldn't have worried so much about preserving Joe and Seth's friendship, and neither would he. At the end of it, though, Joe and I have talked it through. We know where our priorities lie. The only reason he'd been advocating for me to read the apology letter was for my own peace of mind and my own closure. He respects my decision to leave the note unread and leave Seth and Mia to be unhappily ever after. TLDR, Seth and Mia are complete strangers to me. I won't be reading the apology letter, and I won't be dedicating any more of myself to thinking about it. Thank you to everyone who commented on the original post. Sometimes tough love is necessary. Stories number 13. AITA for telling my daughter that my in-laws are stupid. My wife and I have 3 kids. Our youngest, Emily, turned 6 last Sunday. We recently had to deal with an issue in Emily's school. Last year, a new student joined her class and started bullying her. He'd make fun of her, call her names and steal her stuff to hide it around the school. On 2 occasions, the bullying got physical. It took us a while to sort everything out, because the boy's parents were a nightmare and nothing the school did worked. Finally, they threatened to expel him if he didn't leave our daughter alone, and his family got him to stop. He hasn't bothered Emily in months, and she is doing much better. Because of how much of an ordeal this ended up being, many of our friends and family members know what happened. Most were as frustrated as we were, but my wife's stepmother, Patty, thought the whole thing was cute. Even after we told her everything the boy did, she still insisted he probably just liked Emily and didn't know how to show it. For whatever reason, she's fixated on this. Every time the subject comes up, Patty says she still thinks we're being dramatic and the boy deserves another chance. My father-in-law fluctuates between being angry at the school and agreeing the boy was probably harmless. They never spoke about this near the kids, and my wife and I don't give a shit what they think anyway, so we never worried much about this. We're throwing Emily a birthday party this Saturday. Because my FIL will be busy, we all had dinner together at a place Emily likes the day before her birthday. Near the end of the dinner, she started talking about her party, how excited she was and which of her friends were coming. My FIL asked Emily if the bully was invited. And before anyone replied, he obviously isn't, Patty added that it would be mean if she didn't invite him, because he liked her and would be very sad. Emily looked at me and my wife. I told her, don't worry honey, Grandpa and Patty are both very stupid. Don't listen to them. They looked shocked, but didn't try to argue. We had an awkward goodbye and went our separate ways. My FAL called us on Monday. He apologized for what he and Patty said, but told us he expected me to apologize as well. He said that I crossed a line by insulting him and his wife in front of his grandchildren. My wife and I have been on the same page throughout all this. But yesterday, she told me she was starting to wonder whether it wouldn't have been better to deal with this privately, especially since we don't like insulting people in front of the kids. Edit, I brought this up in the comments, but I want to offer more context on what the bully did. It was mostly verbal. He created a few nicknames that kind of, not really, sounded like Emily's real name and our last name. She once got brown paint on her clothes during art class and he started calling her pig. He laughed whenever she spoke in class. The teacher would always shut him down, but Emily is already a shy kid and that didn't help. They have weekly toy days at school, and Emily stopped bringing her toys because the boy kept stealing them or threatening to break them. He'd also take her stuff, backpack, school materials and personal items, and hide them. We managed to get all those things back, and the closest he got to damaging something she owned was a small rip in one of her stuffed animals that my wife was able to fix. And as I mentioned, the bullying got physical twice. On the first occasion, he pushed her off a swing set. She scraped her knees, but wasn't hurt otherwise. The school reprimanded him, but it didn't do much. A few weeks after that, he put gum in her hair during lunch. A teacher witnessed and said that he grabbed her head violently to do so. That got him suspended, and the school threatened to expel him not long after. I don't think there's much I can say about this boy, except that he has very obvious behavioral issues that his parents refuse to manage properly. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You have told Patty to knock it off and then she went and tried to ruin your kid's birthday party by asking to invite that nightmare of a child to attend. She needs to get over her fixation before she pushes your family away from your dad and her. Reply, I'm really glad we didn't do this dinner on her actual birthday. Emily was upset, but she was doing better the next day. Commenter 2, NTA I wouldn't apologize, they were out of line. You have to take bullying seriously, kids are harming themselves, just from being bullied. And they really need to stop with he likes her and meant no harm. Nothing is cute about being bullied and harassed. Reply, Patty's whole attitude about this has been infuriating. We've barely spoken about this boy in months, but she feels the need to bring him up every single time. Commenter 3, there was probably no other way to make your MIL shut up, so NTA. What I find disturbing is that your MIL prioritizes a bully over her own grandchild. Since when is bullying a sign of affection? If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, chances are it is a duck. Seen in a wider context, your MIL enables and makes excuses for the kind of toxic behavior that men display towards women on a daily basis. Instead of protecting her grandchild, she exposes her to a bully. That's seriously insane. Reply, back when we were having to deal with the boy's parents, one of the excuses they used, referring to the name calling, was that all boys behaved like that around girls. I think about that a lot. Both because I know it's not true, neither of my sons are like that, nor did I act like that when I was a child, and because of how disheartening it is that people could enable that. Commenter, YTA. You just called your FIL a name in front of your daughter. They're from a different generation. Yes, they were wrong. But so are you. They aren't just your in-laws, that's your wife's parents and your daughter's grandparents. You owe your wife, your daughter, and them an apology. Reply, firstly, Patty is not my wife's mother or my children's grandmother. That's my mother-in-law, who is still alive and kicking. Secondly, my FIL is in his 60s, so not that old. I don't really consider that a good reason to be soft. You can absolutely make the argument that I should apologize, but not for that reason. Commenter 4, Patty downplaying your daughter's trauma in front of her would be it for me. I wouldn't let anyone around one of my kids that tried to downplay or minimize the hurt they had suffered by their bully, and I'd tell them that. I'd definitely take a time out from seeing Patty for a while because I'm sure her comment confused your daughter. Reply, Emily cried on the way home, we had to tell her she wasn't being mean to the boy. OOP gives an example of the physical assault. Reply, the physical harm part is being brought up pretty often, so I'll take the opportunity to clarify what I mean by this. On the first occasion, he pushed her off a swing set. She scraped her knees, but wasn't hurt otherwise. The school reprimanded him, but it didn't do much. A few weeks after that, he put gum in her hair during lunch. A teacher witnessed and said that he grabbed her head violently to do so. That got him suspended, and the school threatened to expel him not long after. What steps did the school take to deal with the bullying situation? Reply, the school actually handled everything better than we expected, but we could tell they were having trouble with it because the boy was very difficult to deal with. Transferring him to a different class didn't work, sending notes to his home didn't work, setting up meetings between us and his parents didn't work. Not even suspending him worked. We could always tell the school was trying, but nothing they did stopped him or convinced his parents to do something until they threatened to expel him. Does Patty have any kids? Reply, she doesn't have kids. My wife and her sister don't consider her a second mom either. Update, I'm very grateful for the advice and support you gave me on my first post. To get it out of the way, Emily's birthday party went off without a hitch, and she had a great time with her friends. It's always bittersweet watching our little girl grow up so fast, but me and my wife enjoyed ourselves as well. We talked more about what happened over the last few days. My wife made it very clear that she didn't care that I called her father and Patty stupid and didn't think I should apologize, but was concerned about our kids thinking I was a hypocrite. We always aim to teach them to be kind and avoid insulting others, and it doesn't feel fair to hold them to standards we don't hold ourselves to. So Friday night, we sat the kids down and discussed what I'd said. We explained that I was upset at what my in-laws had done and was trying to protect Emily, but that what I said was still not nice and they shouldn't repeat it. I apologized for the language I used. Besides that, my wife and I also talked about how we'd deal with her father and Patty. I told her I wanted them to apologize to Emily, and I wouldn't say a word to them until they did. She agreed with me. After the party, she texted her father the following, this is a translation. The party went well. About what happened at Emily's birthday dinner. My name will not apologize. Patty has no right to tell our daughter how she should feel about the boy who made her life hell for months, and neither do you. I'll call you tomorrow and you'll apologize to your granddaughter. If your wife wants to continue being a part of the children's lives, she will too. And if she mentions that boy again, I'll have to seriously rethink the role we're letting her have here. This isn't up for discussion. She showed me the text before sending it, but I agreed with pretty much everything. They had a short fight about it, but he agreed in the end. I offered to apologize to keep the peace and my wife told me not to. Both my FIL and Patty finally apologized to Emily on Sunday. We're not confident about Patty, but my FIL seems sincere. Either way, we've decided to loosen our ties with my wife's stepmother for a while. We're still working everything out, but we'll see her less until at least my eldest son's birthday, October. I have no doubts my FIL loves my children, but he's a very strange guy. He was overprotective of his daughters their whole youths, but frequently tells us we're dramatic when it comes to our kids. And I never had any strong feelings about Patty, but her treatment of Emily's situation has soured my image of her. On a side note, the bully found out about the party. His mother found my wife on Instagram and messaged her to complain that he wasn't invited. My wife reminded her of the day the school threatened to kick her son out. No reply as of today. I didn't know what to expect when I posted here, but I was glad to see that even those who thought I was in the wrong agreed that Emily and her well-being came first. At the end of the day, that's all I really care about. This will be my only update. Thanks everyone. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, glad everything worked out. As for the bully not being invited to the party but finding out, Faithful. Maybe if his parents didn't raise him to be mean to other kids, it wouldn't be an issue. Reply, his parents enabled and found excuses for everything he did up until the consequences got too severe. The one time my daughter physically defended herself and the few times my sons yelled at him to defend her were upsetting to them. They disapproved of everything the school did to protect Emily, including moving their son to a different class. Commenter 2, I'm glad you taught your daughter that abusive peers don't like her. That kind of thinking is insane. I'm 60 and I hated hearing it when young. Reply, both me and my wife hate it too. It was especially infuriating when we were having to deal with the bully and his parents and Patty started trying to convince us that the boy had a crush on Emily. Hearing that the kid who was tormenting my daughter on an almost daily basis was just a cute little boy who didn't know how to deal with being in love was maddening. Any chances that Patty knows or is friends with the bully's parents? Reply, highly doubt it. We never gave Patty or my FIL any last names, and they're not involved with my children's school otherwise. Both of the boys' parents also have very common first names. Commenter 3, it's hard enough watching your child go through something like that, but when the other parents enable the behavior instead of taking responsibility, it just makes everything worse. I'm glad your kid stood up for Emily, sounds like they did the right thing even when the adults didn't. Reply, I guess it would be hard to watch someone call your sister a pig and not do something about it. My sons are both older than Emily and the bully, so I'm glad they didn't get physical, but I'm proud of them for defending her. Commenter 4, why the heck would that kid's parents care about your daughter having a birthday party? My God, they're deranged. Reply, they didn't actually parent their child until the school threatened to expel him. Their reaction does not surprise me. My wife showed me the mother's text. She essentially said it wasn't fair to exclude her son and gave some of the same excuses for his behavior she had given during our meetings at the school. Stories number 14. Did my girlfriend's parents try to plant something in my bag? I need an outside perspective. My girlfriend, F24, is getting her doctorate, and her parents financially support her while she's in school. The issue is, they use this support to control every aspect of her life, where she can live, how much time she can spend with me, F24, and even the places she's allowed to go. Over time, through a lot of reflection and conversations with me, she's realized this isn't normal and plans to fully distance herself once she secures a stable job that can help pay for her degree. We've been together for 3 years, and as time has passed, her parents have started trying to control aspects of my life as well. I grew up poor and have always financially supported myself. I used to drive a beater car that finally gave out, and for Christmas, her parents gifted me one of their cars. While I was incredibly grateful, I always felt like there were strings attached. For instance, the car isn't registered in my name, which created issues when trying to renew the registration. It also has an app that allows remote access, starting the car, tracking its location, etc. I never asked for access because I knew they were using it to keep tabs on me. I even got a text from my girlfriend's dad once, letting me know I had left the car door unlocked, confirming to me that they definitely monitor it. Recently, I applied for a job in the city where my girlfriend and her parents live. Since my girlfriend is currently abroad for her doctorate, she wasn't home when I stayed with her parents for my first round of interviews. While I was there, they kept pushing the idea of me living with them to save money to buy a house. I was polite and considered it in conversation, but I knew that wasn't something I wanted. During my visit, my girlfriend's friends invited me to go out to a few bars one night, but her mom had an issue with me being out late, so I ended up not going. Now, here's where I need perspective. I flew home that Sunday with just a carry-on bag. I didn't unpack right away, and when I finally did laundry on Tuesday, I found a rusty pocket knife in my load of clothes. I was completely confused because a pocket knife is not something I own or have seen before. I sent a picture to my girlfriend to see if it might belong to her brother and had accidentally gotten mixed up in my stuff. She said she'd never seen it before and sent it to her family group chat to ask if it was theirs. Her parents' responses were, "Mom, what? LMAO. I didn't give her any laundry. And it's dirty on top of that, so I definitely wouldn't give her something dirty. LMAO. Think about it, love. That's kind of concerning because she didn't check a luggage last time she was here. She carried on. She would have been in trouble. Dad, nice. Contraband, and she flew with it." Their first reaction wasn't confusion, "I've never seen that before," it was immediately defensive and focused on how I could have gotten in trouble at the airport. I hadn't even thought about the fact that I flew with it. I was just trying to figure out where it came from. But their reaction, combined with everything else, has me spiraling. I can't shake the feeling that they might have planted it in my bag to try and get me in trouble. I am so conflicted because they are nice people and have truly helped me in so many ways. Am I overthinking this? Or is this as weird as it feels to me? I would really appreciate an outside perspective. Edit, I'm newish to Reddit, so if this is how you do updates. After reading through all of your comments on my original post, I didn't realize just how concerning this situation sounded to outsiders. It has given me a lot to think about, and I really appreciate everyone's perspective. I want to talk to my girlfriend about everything, but I'm struggling with how to bring it up. When I got back from my trip, I called her, she lives abroad, and mentioned that her parents were pushing the idea of me moving in with them so I could save money for a duplex, something I've wanted for a while. I told her that, while it could help me financially, I didn't want to do it because it could ruin the current dynamic I have with her parents. I also called to vent about how her mom essentially stopped me from going out with friends because it was too late. Her response caught me off guard. She agreed that moving in wouldn't be a good idea, but not because of her parents' control issues, because she didn't want to hear me complain about them. This was new for me to hear, especially since she constantly vents to me about how her mom micromanages her life and how her dad does nothing to stop it. That conversation made me feel like I don't know how to bring up the bigger issues. The possibility that her parents planted the knife in my bag. How I feel like the car is being used to control me. How I've slowly felt like they are trying to dictate aspects of my life just like hers. When they gifted me the car after Christmas, they told me they would keep it in their name since they had a good interest rate in payments. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was just grateful to have a car that wasn't constantly breaking down. Her mom gave me an envelope, and I was under the impression that they were the renewal stickers. The car's registration expired in 01/25. A week into January, I went to put the new sticker on and opened the envelope, only to find a denial letter because she never submitted the required inspection. When I texted her about it, she already knew it was a denial, not the renewal stickers, but didn't mention it to me beforehand. While she was somewhat helpful when I asked for info on how to get it fixed, it turned into a frustrating ordeal. Since the car isn't in my name and is registered in a different county, it took almost a month to get everything processed. I ended up figuring it out on my own and was able to change the mailing address so that stickers would come directly to me. But I still haven't received the stickers. It's been 3 weeks. After reading everyone's comments, I can't shake the feeling that this might be intentional. My temporary receipt from the DMV is only valid for 31 days, which means it expires next week. If I get pulled over with expired registration, that could cause serious problems, especially because I'm applying to work in law enforcement. I've completely dropped the idea of moving to their city and will not be continuing the interview process for that job. I also know that I need to get a new car as soon as possible. I'm going to start saving, and when my girlfriend comes to visit at the end of April, I'll ask her to drive the gifted car back. Hopefully, by then, I'll have another car lined up. Looking back, I felt weird about the car from the moment they gave it to me. I was excited and grateful, but something in my gut told me there were strings attached. Before the car, I didn't feel like I owed them anything or that they were entitled to details about my life. Now, I feel like they use it as leverage to monitor me. I know I need to talk to my girlfriend about this, but I want to approach it in a way that isn't judgmental, just honest about how I feel. We generally have good communication, but I'm worried about how she'll react, given her response to my last call. To also address the comments about timeline for when my girlfriend will be financially free from them, I think it will be a very long time. They have given her everything she's wanted and needed her whole life. She doesn't have to work. She is only in the last few months starting to realize that her parents are leveraging money to control her and is starting to want to look for jobs while going to school. Which I am very proud of her for coming to this realization, as I know it was not easy for her to do. But I honestly think it may be years before she actually stops being provided for. Does anyone have advice on how to navigate this conversation? How do I explain everything in a way that she'll understand without making her feel defensive? Also, I understand that timelines as far as age do not match. I am trying to keep this as anonymous as possible. Update: did my girlfriend's parents try to plant something in my bag? I need an outside perspective. A lot has happened since my original post, and it's honestly hard to even know where to start. I got my own car fixed and no longer drive the one that was given to me, the same one involved in the initial situation. When I finally told my girlfriend everything, she believed me and wanted to get to the bottom of it. I felt relieved. I also talked to a few of my childhood friends, people she's only met once and who live out of state, just to get some perspective. I was intentional about who I should to speak to. I picked people who do not know her family, and knowing the information we talked about would not change their dynamics because they don't know each other. I still wanted to honor her and our relationship. When I told her, though, she flipped. She didn't speak to me for a full day and said I had betrayed her trust. Then she told her dad that I thought her mom planted the knife, which I never said. If anything, I've always quietly believed it was her dad. This was a much worse betrayal. She went to the source, and finding that out hurt me so bad, and I don't think I will ever heal from that. We fought, eventually talked it out, and kept moving forward. Or tried to. Then about a month ago, everything imploded. Her dad found out her mom was cheating. The evidence. 7 back and forth messages between her and an old family friend catching up. That was it, but it didn't matter. He spiraled. While my girlfriend was home, he started screaming at her mom, calling her a whore, a slut, just completely degrading her. It got so intense that my girlfriend had to kick a door open out of fear. The next day, he kicked her mom out, cut off her phone service and all her cards. She's a stay-at-home mom with no personal finances. He left her with nothing. My girlfriend came to stay with me after that, trying to get space. He started blowing up her phone with unhinged messages just because she set a boundary. Meanwhile, her mom went back to the house while he was at work to grab some of her things and found her computer background changed to a picture of the man she supposedly cheated with. When she walked into the bathroom, all of her perfume bottles were smashed and shards of glass everywhere. On the bed, an assault rifle laid out. Intentionally placed. Meant to intimidate. A week later, he invited her, the mom, out to dinner but only communicated through their son, saying things like, "Tell your mom to come to dinner." At dinner, he acted like everything was normal. Held her hand. Made her think things were mending. Then, mid-meal, he slid her an envelope. Inside was a Mother's Day card from her own mom. But written over the sweet note in thick black Sharpie, "Do not make a scene. We are getting a divorce." With his ring inside the envelope. It was calculated. Disturbing. Cruel. And it was all done with a smile on his face in front of their children. Watching this unfold shattered something in me. I watched my girlfriend's entire world collapse. She had always held her dad in the highest regard, saw him as someone who could do no wrong. But I thought, finally. Maybe now she'll see what I've been seeing all along. Because I never truly believed her mom planted the knife. I always felt it was him. He's dangerously intelligent, and that's what makes him so terrifying. His attacks are calculated and psychological. But then, after 2 weeks of crying in my arms, telling me how scared she was, she went back. And the same night she got back, she said she had a good talk with her dad and that they were good now. Just like that. After everything, now her mom is fully moved back in. They're all acting like none of it ever happened. And my girlfriend is doing the same. She's giving herself no space to process. She's always been expected to be everyone's rock, to hold it all together, and now she's doing that again, pretending everything is fine. I couldn't take it anymore. After being on the phone with her and hearing her interact with her parents like nothing happened, I finally told her the truth, that she's being manipulated. That it's hard to watch. That I will never see her parents the same way again. That I don't want a relationship with them moving forward. It hurt her. Deeply. She wants me to be good with her family. I get it, they mean everything to her. But I will never be good with them. I'm still so angry for her. Because all I see is how they use her, manipulate her, and take advantage of her loyalty, and she doesn't see it. We argued again. I'm exhausted. We're supposed to be moving abroad together in 2 months, and yet we're both trying to live in completely different realities. I love her, but this is breaking me. Stories number 15. AITA for putting my mom in an awkward position by telling her I don't like my stepsister. My mom got remarried when I, 17M, was 12, and that was 3 years after my dad died. Her husband Jonathan has a daughter, Cassie, who's the same age as me. I met Cassie for the first time like 4 months before my mom and Jonathan got married. Cassie and I got along okay when we first met, but I never warmed up to her and I don't really like her. She always wants me to do stuff for her, and when I do she's fine, though she never says thanks, but when I don't she gets mad. She's short and I'm tall, so she'll ask me to grab stuff that's stored too high for her to reach. Or she'll ask me to move stuff around in her room when she decides to change the layout. Other times it's her asking me to explain an assignment we both have for school, or telling me I need to explain it to her friends or something. And like I say, she gets mad when I say no. It doesn't matter why I say no, like I'm doing something, my own assignment, but she has slammed doors, asked me why I'm so difficult in a frustrated way. She's tried to drag me and make me help her or her friends. The other thing is she finds it morbid that I talk about my dad and have a photo of him in my room. She came into my room one time and told me I should put it away, and we argued because I told her not to touch it, and she got offended and asked why she was so bad that she couldn't even touch the photo. But her attitude made me think she might try to hide it or worse. And she has told me before it's so fucking morbid to wish a dead guy happy birthday when I post stuff like that about dad. Her mom was never in her life. She's alive but didn't want to be a mom, and I get that we have different experiences and feelings because of that, but it frustrates me that she's got her own experience and can't try to be understanding. Then she calls me her brother, but she talks to me that way. I mostly just accept that Cassie's there and a part of my mom's life now and that she cares about Cassie. But I don't. I don't love Cassie or like her or care about her, and I don't call her my sister. I try not to be so obvious or a jerk about it, and it's worked because I think Cassie thinks I care about her and my mom did, but now I opened up to my mom. Jonathan doesn't really like Cassie going to parties with just her friends, so my mom has always asked me to go when she does, so Jonathan feels better about it. I have resisted a few times and my mom encouraged me to do it even if it didn't sound like fun, and I give in because I love my mom. But Cassie wanted to go with her friends and one of her friends' parents to a cabin next month. Jonathan wasn't sure and Cassie said I could come to make her feel better. He liked the idea. Mom was on board. But I wasn't. I asked Mom if we could talk just us, so she brought me for milkshakes and asked me what was up. And I told her I didn't want to go with Cassie and her friends, and I told Mom I already did stuff for Cassie, but it was incredibly forced on my part and I didn't want to be away from all my friends with her and her friends for a week. Mom said she thought we were close and I said I do my best to treat Cassie nicely, but I don't actually like Cassie and I never have. Mom asked me what that meant and I described it more. I said I accept her presence but never felt close to her and never bonded with her, and that I never really felt like protecting her or like she was my family. We talked for like 2 hours and then my mom told me I put her in a really awkward position because Cassie clearly doesn't feel the same even if she's not always the best at showing it. She told me Jonathan believed we were close too and he would not like hearing that I don't like or care about his daughter at all. And she said she's married to Jonathan and she loves Cassie, which makes it awkward. My mom talked to Jonathan and said she didn't think it was a good idea for me to go on the trip. They fought about that decision and my mom has been a bit off with me since. Now I'm wondering if I should have just shut the fuck up and kept it to myself and let it become obvious once we both went to college and I didn't make an effort to maintain a relationship with Cassie. AITA. Stories number 16. AITA for saying if my wife wants to be a trad wife then she must always look her best, wait on me, and provide sex without question when asked. I'm 35 and my wife is 40. We've been together 15 years. The last couple of years she's really fell down the trad wife black hole and it's driving me crazy. At first it started off with her saying she doesn't want to work anymore, and lately it has escalated to saying men who make their wives work are abusive. We both have well-paid jobs. I'm a self-employed builder with a team and earn around £100,000 a year. She works in management for the NHS and earns around £50,000 a year. We both work, I guess I should say worked for her, really hard and have no kids, and 3 years ago managed to pay our mortgage off and lived in a nice enough area where I would have happily stayed forever. She however suddenly wanted a massive house that we didn't need. I should have saw what was coming. She was looking at £700,000 houses which would require a mortgage of £500,000 after we sold our house. I gave in and we bought a house. She then wanted a new car, which again I caved to, and she got a car that is worth more than she earns a year. She then decided she didn't want to work anymore. She said her job was crap and I said take a lower paid one then that you'll enjoy more. She said no. She just doesn't want to work, full stop. She also doesn't want to give up anything she has. Over the past couple of years it has been obvious she is trying to lose her job without leaving, despite me saying that I can't afford the house and car and holidays on my own. She started bringing this trad wife crap up but said she'd want to hire a cleaner as the house is too big for her to clean alone and she prefers my cooking to hers, so I'll still do all the cooking. So I said you basically want to dress up pretty and bake the odd cake. She stormed off and said I don't get it. She again brought it up yesterday and I said fine, she can do it, but she's got to get up before me and make sure my breakfast is ready like in the videos she watches. She's got to be dressed as a sexy version of a 50s housewife like in the videos she watches from the moment I open my eyes to the moment I close them. The house must be spotless at all times like in the videos she watches. I want huge packed lunches for work like in the videos she watches. I want to come home and have beautiful pies and cakes ready for pudding like in the videos she watches. I want a bath ran for when I get in and then come down to a proper meal every night like in the videos she watches. I then want a foot rub while I eat the cakes and pies she makes like in the videos she watches. I also want sex on demand, how I want it when I want it, like in the videos she watches. She called me abusive, a user, sexist etc. and stormed out to her equally delusional sister's house. Don't get me started on her. I'll be honest, I'm ready for divorce if this carries on. Comments. Commenter 1. At least you don't have kids, so divorce is easier. Probably best to do it while you're both still earning well so there's no question of alimony. Forgot to add, obviously NTA. In a traditional household women don't make no contribution, their contribution is through domestic labor, while men provide financial value by going out and working. Her contribution would already be far below average given that the bulk of the traditional wife's time is spent on children. She wants to make no contribution, and is disguising it as trad wife. Commenter 2. Get the divorce, mate. It'll be cheaper and less stressful than dealing with a crazy wife every minute of the day and night. It's not about the tradwife lifestyle, she simply doesn't want to work. She merely wants to sit on her backside, enjoy the things she has badgered you into paying for, and do nothing. There is a lot of this kind of crazy going around. It won't get any better either. What will it be next? Vacations on the French Riviera? A bigger, nicer, more expensive car? The list goes on and on. Reply, I am leaning this way, mate. I think a divorce is more likely than anything else at this moment in time. Luckily she's afraid of flying, so I've managed to avoid the expensive holidays apart from the odd Eurostar trip to Paris. She's makes me feel like a 10-pound millionaire, though trying to be something we aren't. I know we are better off than most, but we don't earn footballers' money, which is what I think she aspires to. Commenter 3. You were crazy to agree to the 700k house. You'll be okay, but it makes things so much tougher. If she wanted that, why not save up with the old house and then work up to the new one and both of you work together? Reply, that's what I suggested. With my job we could have bought a cheap house, done it up and made some money and then moved upwards slowly and stayed debt-free. I have modified our house a bit and it's probably worth £800,000 now, but it's still not a nice feeling having such a big mortgage and knowing she wants me to cover it alone. Commenter 4. Dude, divorce her if she doesn't act normal. You sound like such a catch. Like, I don't like rushing with divorce, maybe marriage counseling first. But you have no kids, so you can easily split without drama. Be assertive, say no, say what you expect and that you want to split if she doesn't go back to how she was. Say she has X amount of time, up to you, 1 month. Reply, haha, I don't know about a catch. I've asked for couples counseling numerous times. She's not interested. Commenter 5. Now is the time to say couples counseling or divorce. Your choice, honey. Update. I'd like to answer a few questions from my first post before an update. No, my requests were not serious and I can't believe how many people thought they were. It was me trying to prove a point of how ridiculous she is being. Like I said in the comments, I don't want a maid or a slave, I want a partner. Before my wife got on this train she was a very ambitious, career-driven person who wanted to climb to the top. She was never really on social media until the pandemic. The trad wife thing started a couple of years ago. A lot of people suggested couples counseling. I've asked many times and always get the same response, I don't need counseling, there's nothing wrong with me. On to the update. We spoke Saturday morning and I told her that I can't go on like this. I said to her bluntly the trad wife thing is never happening and she either accepts it and we go to couples counseling or we split up. I'm don't dancing around her bullshit. She chose to split up. I asked her if she even really wanted to be a trad wife or if she's just trying to force me away, like she's trying to force her job to sack her because she doesn't have the balls to quit herself. She said yes she does and there's plenty of dating sites that cater to this dynamic. I told her I'd seen them and they are more sugar daddy dynamics and without being horrible she's too old for that. This set her off. She said I'm wrong and that I'm the one who can't support my wife, so I'm the bad one in the marriage and a real man would be able to give her the life she wants. She was shouting and screaming this at the top of her lungs. It's about the only time I've been glad to be in our new house so the neighbors didn't hear. I got a bit petty at the real man comment and said, you can't cook, you can't clean and you don't have sex, what part of being a trad wife do you offer? I then stole a comment from my last post and said she doesn't want to be a trad wife, she wants to be a trophy wife. She just said I'm unbelievable and has gone to her sisters again. I'm going to take the next couple of weeks and start talking to a divorce lawyer to see what this entails. Then once this ball has got rolling I'm fucking off to Portugal for a couple of weeks to myself. Comments. Commenter 1. She's 40 and in the UK where there isn't a conservative tradwife trophy wife culture. She's going to be divorced and on benefits in a shitty bedsit. Take care of yourself OP, because she's intent on blowing up her life for some reason. Commenter 2. You can't cook, you can't clean and you don't have sex, what part of being a trad wife do you offer? LMAO. That is some serious burn. Commenter 3. And totally correct, she offers fuck all. She will be at her sister's for a long time. Wonder if the poor sister knows this. Commenter 4. Yeah, not to be mean but rich sugar daddy men aren't lining up for a 40-year-old. Commenter 5. She wants to be a sugar baby at 40. Good luck with that. Commenter 6. Also without sex. Commenter 7. So just a baby. Stories number 17. AITA for telling my dad I didn't like his new wife. So I, 17F, have two sisters Gabby, 24F, and Amelie, 27F. Our mother passed away 8 years ago and my dad, 54M, finally decided he wanted to remarry. He met this woman, 46F, on a dating app who I won't say her name. They met up and got to know each other probably 7 months ago, and 2 months ago my dad proposed to her. Obviously me and my sisters thought he was rushing things and told him that he had to take things slow, especially since they literally met only 7 months ago. He said that he hasn't been this happy in a long time and that he wanted to get married as soon as possible and that his fiancée wanted the same thing as well. Me and my sisters thought that he really was happy and we finally came to terms that they really were engaged and soon the wedding would happen. The wedding day came and they had their honeymoon and all was good, until his new wife started acting like a total bitch. So basically after their honeymoon she started living with me and my dad obviously. Since my sisters moved out of the house, my dad's wife would always boss me around and tell me what to do, like, go clean the dishes, or go clean the living room. I mean, these are basic things that need to be done and I don't really mind doing them, but not when every 2 freaking hours she would find something for me to do. For example, she literally told me to go clean out her closet and fold her clothes. Obviously I said no, because why the hell am I doing that? She then started complaining and saying that I have no respect for her when all day I do chores that she should have been doing instead. I told my sisters about this and they said that it only happened one time so it doesn't really matter, but tell me why she literally told me to clean out the fridge and clean it. Excuse me, why am I doing that? Like, no thanks, I'm not doing that. I literally told her that and she started complaining again about how disrespectful I am. I told my sisters about that as well and they said that they'll talk to her. So Gabby came and confronted her, but then she decided to cry to my dad as if he would take her side, which he did like SMH anyway. He took her side and started yelling at me and my sister and said that we weren't making her feel welcome even though all we've been doing is be nice to her. For some reason my dad thought it was a good idea to start yelling at me and call me names, which is diabolical because why is he defending a woman he met no even 8 months ago? I started yelling back obviously, and in the midst of the argument I said that I didn't even like her from the beginning. My dad and his wife went absolutely crazy and started yelling at me as if I committed murder. My sister Gabby lives in an apartment and my sister thought it's better if I go stay with her until the issue is resolved. My dad hasn't talked to me and I really don't know if I'm in the wrong or not. So the question still remains. AITA, edit. Why people are saying I don't do chores? I literally do every time she asks me to do either the dishes or clean the living room. I obvi do it. BC, it's not that big of a deal as I mentioned before. But yeah, I just wanted to make that clear. Stories number 18. AITA for telling my former friend turned sale that I'm never going to be her comfort person again. I, 25M, used to have the biggest crush on my childhood friend, Emily, 26F. As a teen I wasn't very assertive and a little awkward, so I never made a move and just hoped that one day Emily would realize that I was the guy for her. The only person who I openly admitted my crush, although it was kind of obvious, to was my brother, Liam, 28M. He was much more assertive and confident than I was and would run through girls like water, so I went to him for advice about Emily. Given the situation at the time, you can imagine my surprise when I caught Liam and Emily hooking up. I know that she technically was never my girlfriend, but it still sucked and I did feel betrayed. Turns out they hooked up at a party once and liked the encounter so much that they kept meeting up to do it when no one was around. I felt completely sick and basically just distanced myself from Emily after that, which could be really awkward because we had a lot of classes together and had the same shift at the part-time job we had. A job that Emily frequently depended on me to give her rides to. I just wanted to remove Emily from my life completely, but during the summer of our senior year she and Liam sat me and my parents down and explained that Emily had gotten pregnant and were planning on keeping the baby. My parents weren't happy while I just got up and locked myself in my room. All I could think was, well crap, now she's never going to go away. I purposefully transferred to an out-of-state college so I wouldn't be home as much and lied about getting stuck in traffic when I missed Emily and Liam's wedding, and I showed no interest in my niece, Daisy, 8F, although I still make the effort to be polite when I'm around them. Recently, Emily's father has passed away and she's really going through it because despite him not being around she always desired a relationship. When we were kids I remember all those times I was a shoulder for Emily to cry on whenever she felt sad about her dad, and I guess she was longing for that type of comfort from me and kept reaching out. One day I relented and let her vent, but I maintained a silent and formal demeanor on the matter. After spending about an hour crying I offered Emily some water and then she asked me why I was being so cold, how I know how much she needed a friend right now. I calmly yet firmly told her that we were just kids then and that if she wants that level of emotional intimacy then she needs to go to my brother, her husband, because I stopped being her comfort person a long time ago. Emily cried even more, left, and has managed to send Liam, my parents, Emily's mom, and for mutual friends to call me up and tell me I'm heartless and sad for being so spiteful. I can honestly say that I am now over Emily, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to be as close to her as I used to. So AITA. Top comments. Commenter 1. You had a crush in high school on a girl, but never asked her out. Somebody else did, and she married them. It's a decade later and you still ignore her kid, who is literally your niece, because you're salty about it. Dude, this isn't healthy, please get help. I have to put YTA, but like, this is beyond AITA. Commenter 2, he never told her what his feelings were, but he is going to punish her kid for her not taking responsibility for his feelings. Big yikes. AITA. Commenter 3, the brother was the shitty one here, not Emily, who didn't know he had a crush on her or her child, who has nothing to do with this. Op has clearly not moved on. Reply, agreed, I was more angry with my brother than Emily. Commenter 4, you've spent 9 years being so bitter. That's really sad for you. I don't think you're TA for telling Emily you can't be that person for her, but you're definitely TA for spending so much time being angry and obstinate. Don't spend the rest of your life like this, it will only bring more of the same. Commenter 5, big nice guy energy here. You literally fuckzoned her, since by your own words you only kept being her friend because you were waiting for her to fall for you. She fell for your brother instead, and you got bitter AF because she suddenly was damaged goods to the point you don't even want a relationship with your niece. She never knew how you felt. Even your brother probably thought it was just a childhood crush. Then you act like a total asshole by kicking her while she's down after practically ghosting her emotionally for 8 Wow. She should thank her lucky stars she got the brother and not you if you're going to behave this way. 100% YTA, and you need therapy to work through this unresolved obsession. NTA comments. Commenter 1, going against the grain. NTA. I've had besties and stepsisters that pulled the same shit as your brother. If she cared about your friendship that much, she wouldn't have been messing with your brother. The fact that you had to catch on to the situation, and she never told you, bestie, speaks volumes. Just because she had his kid, doesn't mean the disrespect never happened, and quite frankly you are right. She can't get the support from her husband that she needs and wants to play the bestie card now that she needs you to do emotional labor for free. Ha ha ha, no. She can get a therapist for her daddy issues. However, it's time to stop lying. Tell them both why you can never trust either of them. You really thought the pain of your brother and best friend lying to you and fucking around behind your back would get better with time, but it's not going to. Your brother is a creep for having sex with her while she was still in high school, and you know it. Then add in the added grossness of him knowing full well this was the only person you were interested in. He was a sexual predator before he was with her, and he's probably still doing predatory shit that will come out in time. Break away from all of it. Oh, and talk to somebody professional. You still have much to process that I believe will affect future romance. Take care of you. Commenter 2, the question was, AITA for telling my former friend turned sale that I'm never going to be her comfort person again. YTA posters are deliberately missing the point. Let's imagine OP never had a crush on a sale. It would still be incredibly inappropriate for him to serve as her comfort person. OP's former feelings are irrelevant to the issue at hand. He was right, she needs to seek that level of intimate comfort from her husband. Throwing around phrases like, incel behavior, or nice guy syndrome, is just ridiculous. People are allowed to create boundaries to protect themselves. They're also allowed to be too shy or awkward or inexperienced to speak up about their feelings. Nowhere in his post does OP use verbiage that would indicate he felt entitled to Emily's affections. He's allowed to have felt deeply hurt over his brother's betrayal. He's allowed to have felt deeply hurt over Emily being with his brother. Actions have consequences. Emily chose to sleep with her close friend's brother. The consequence is she lost a close friend. ETA, had to step away, and after looking at the comments and DMs I just wanted to be clear about some things. Not an incel. Did I exhibit some nice guy traits as a teenager? Yes. As an adult I now realize that Emily doesn't owe me a romantic relationship. I was more angry at my brother than I was Emily. Because, you know, he was my brother and knew. I don't see how me not taking an active role in the life of a child that I didn't make is me punishing someone. I say hello and give gifts on Christmas and holidays. Again, Emily is married, so I find it odd that she would seek out someone who isn't her husband for emotional support. Yes, I did give my condolences when I found out about Emily's father because it was the polite thing to do. Then she started trying to call me to talk about it. Emily and I haven't had a meaningful contact since high school, partly because she was busy getting ready to be a mom and I was hurt and trying to get over her. No, Liam and I aren't close anymore either. ETA 2, things I didn't include because of word count. Yes, I have a girlfriend and from what I can tell we're both very happy. Yes, my girlfriend knows about my former crush on Emily. Yes, I have friends who are women. Yes, I do believe people of the opposite sex can just be friends when they're adults. Also, in spite of everything I did learn to be more forthcoming with my feelings, which is why I told Emily that I can't be her comfort person. Although I will admit that there could have been a better way and better timing to communicate that. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. YTA, look man, I get that your brother did this and was an asshole, but honestly, you're taking this one way too far. If one childhood crush is this devastating that you're moving states and ignoring nephews and families, this means you should go to therapy to help process the pain. Also, you never really told her you liked her, so how would she know? When she came to you, she came to someone who she could rely on, and you went, go to the guy that actually wants you. That's really immature. Edit 2, replying to OP's edit. I mean, it really shows he still needs some growing to do. I mean, he only said condolences because it was the polite thing to do. Dude, she's your SIL and was your childhood friend that did nothing to you. How cruel. Update. Okay, I've stepped away, and after coming back and seeing the thousands commenters and Reddit's verdict, I can accept that the way I told Emily that I couldn't be her comfort person anymore was wrong, the timing especially. I do not feel bad about being honest where I stand with her. I am not sorry about keeping my distance, and I've yet to regret not pursuing a relationship with my brother's daughter. I don't know if Emily ever found out about my feelings for her because it was never discussed, but I don't see how telling her now would change anything. I am truly over her and happy with my girlfriend. I would never pick Emily over my girlfriend, and I've yet to see a reason why I need to rekindle a friendship with her in order to prove it to anyone. My brother betrayed me. He knew how I felt and still went after Emily, and I refuse to ever be close with him again over it. That is my boundary, and so far it's been working out well for me, and the day our parents die is the day I cut Liam out of my life completely. Stories number 19. AITA for wanting to leave my wife after the birth of my child. My 34M wife, 32F, and I have been married for 7 years. After a miscarriage, she admitted to me that she had multiple affairs over the last 4 years of our marriage. Her last affair ended a year ago. She begged for us to go to therapy to work on our marriage, but I refused to go. During this time I had moved out of the house. Occasionally I would go back to take care of the house and animals, and she would constantly try to manipulate me into coming back. I had every intention of getting a divorce, but the process is slow. I hated the betrayal I felt, but I also missed my wife during the separation. One thing led to another, and we had sex and she got pregnant again. Shortly after the news came, I had to leave for work about 12 hours away from her. She would call to give me updates about the pregnancy and talk about our marriage. We were separate for majority of her pregnancy. I told her that I still wanted a divorce, but I would consider reconciling after the baby was born. After several months away from her, I came to the realization that I could not trust her, nor could I forgive her for her infidelity. I feel like the last 7 years of my life has been a lie. While I was away from her, I met someone and a relationship blossomed between us. I truly feel like I love this woman. She has been made aware that I am still married and that I have a baby on the way. My wife is not aware of my new girlfriend. Fast forward to a month ago, I had to go home for the birth of our baby boy. My wife has been pressuring me to reconcile, but I told her that I plan to divorce her again. After the birth of our baby boy, she has been blaming me for ruining our family because I don't want to stay with her and try to fix our marriage. I want to have a co-parenting relationship with my wife, but she is acting very erratic while I am here for our son. AITA for wanting to leave my wife. Any advice on how to deal with this is appreciated. Edit. Thank you all for the mixed reviews. It was expected. I will be talking with a lawyer and will update once I have a chance to talk to one. Appreciate the sound advice as well. Relevant comments. Commenter, you should have tried therapy, Imo. Your NTA, but low effort on your part. Reply, I don't agree. I know I don't want to be with her. She wanted me to go to reconcile, and I feel like I've heard enough of her trying to justify why she had multiple affairs. I haven't felt seen and I feel used. Commenter 1, not TA. At all. She ruined your relationship. You already know you can't be with her again and love her again. It wouldn't be a healthy home for a child. 2. Household parenting can be great, and congrats on your little love bug. I hope she doesn't use your child against you. Also, divorce proceedings should include a paternity test. She obviously tried to get pregnant to get you back. Reply, I'm definitely worried about both things you mentioned here. Commenter 2, one thing led to another, the English-speaking world's most popular euphemism for, I did something really stupid. Commenter 3, ESH, your wife sucks for cheating on you repeatedly over 4 years. That's a serious betrayal, and it's understandable that you'd feel like the entire marriage was a lie. But you're not innocent in this either. You were emotionally and physically indecisive for months, which gave her mixed signals. You told her you wanted a divorce but kept showing up, had unprotected sex, resulting in a baby, and continued entertaining her hopes of reconciliation even while emotionally checking out. You even said you'd consider reconciling after the baby was born. That's a huge breadcrumb to someone already trying to save a relationship. Then, instead of clarifying things, you started a new relationship while still married, didn't tell your wife about it, and are still hiding it from her now that the baby is born. That's not just messy, it's dishonest. You're fully within your rights to leave the marriage. Infidelity is a deal breaker for many. But your execution has been cowardly and passive. You didn't set clear boundaries, didn't communicate with honesty, and avoided taking firm action when it mattered most, and now you're reaping the chaos that comes from that. My advice: divorce her now. No more delays, no more maybes. Tell her about your new relationship, not to rub it in, but because she deserves clarity. She's parenting with you and should understand the new dynamic. Lawyer up and establish formal custody and support agreements. Don't leave this up to emotional negotiations. Stop playing emotional games with her and yourself. You're not the victim anymore, you're a participant in this mess. Get therapy, not for reconciliation, but for you, to process the betrayal, learn better communication boundaries, and avoid repeating this kind of mess in the future. You're not the asshole for wanting to leave, but you're the asshole for how you handled it. Commenter 4, info, are you sure the baby is yours? Oh, yes. We were trying to have a baby. Her miscarriage was a result of us trying. Commenter 5, I don't see why you didn't divorce her before she had the baby. You knew you didn't want to be with her, and infidelity is a relationship killer. I would have divorced her before the baby came. Also get a paternity test. If the baby is yours, pay child support, do your fair share of parenting. Reply, there are reasons I will post in the update. I was trying to reconcile when she told me, but I just couldn't do it. My state has a waiting period and also doesn't allow that during pregnancy. Commenter 6, yeah, obviously cheater equals asshole, but what really made him also the asshole to me was, my wife is not aware of my new girlfriend. Like, that is information he should have shared long ago, especially since it doesn't seem like he told her reconciliation was off the table until he flew home for the birth. Reply, I plan to tell her. Commenter 6, but like, when? Reply, today I am trying to get her to understand we're over, and she's known I've wanted a divorce for the entirety of the pregnancy as well as months before that when she told me she had all of these affairs. Update. Thank you all to those who did not think I was the a-hole here. It's been a tough 2 years. Here's how it went down. I took a paternity test, and my son is confirmed to be mine. I have filed for divorce, but the state in which I lived is very conservative and has a waiting period before it can be finalized. The divorce was filed as uncontested, and I will be paying child support while also staying in his life. I am selling our house and she is moving to a state close by where my son will only be a couple of hours away. This option also makes her closer to family. Custody arrangements will be updated once she has moved. This has been hard emotionally because she has blamed me for ruining our chance as a family and our son's future. It feels manipulative since I no longer want to be with her and I've taken care of her our entire marriage. My wife still does not know about my girlfriend at the request of my girlfriend. As much as I want to integrate my girlfriend, this will take time to do, and I also felt like my wife doesn't have to know about her until everything has settled and the divorce finalized. It's been difficult for me being away from my son, but I do get to see him every day. I was there for his birth and 3 weeks afterwards. I will be taking leave again to spend more time with my son, take care of the house, the divorce, and to help get her and my son moved. I am glad this marriage is ending, and while it's tough right now with my son, the mutual goal is to have a co-parenting relationship. Despite the things my wife has said and her wanting to continue the marriage, I feel my son will be better off knowing what an actual loving relationship is. My girlfriend has been very supportive of me and I'm ready to move on in my life with her. Trying to get any help or legal advice in the state we got married has been a nightmare and has been overall negative to the choice I have already made. The marriage is dead, but I will be in my son's life. I do not agree with the empty values there. Any advice on how to ensure a healthy co-parenting relationship without a lawyer is needed. Thank you all again. Top comments. Commenter 1. But you really should not have slept with your wife that last time without protection. This made everything much more complicated by giving her leverage. Commenter 2. Why would you have a child knowing she was an AH and that you weren't sure you were fitting back together, poor child? Commenter 3. My dude. You need to end one relationship before you start the next. Honestly, your choices have led you from one mess to another. It's clear you have some healing to do. Commenter 4. ESH. So many issues with your wife, and no issues with you wanting to leave her. But come on, dude. You led her on, apparently didn't use protection, knocked her up, and now want to leave her. You've essentially tethered yourself to this woman for the next 18 years at least. You should have left her when you initially moved out, and you sure as heck shouldn't have gotten back into bed with her. You both are messy, and I would not be surprised if you have relationship drama for the rest of your life. Stories number 20. Stepdaughter almost drowned in my pool and her mom and others are blaming me. Saturday night I came back home at around 6 p.m. and my husband called me saying that he was supposed to pick up his daughter, 5, from her mom's and that he's stuck at work so her mom would drop her off at our place. I said okay, and I was watching TV and expecting them to arrive soon. Around 8 p.m. my dog started barking and jumping at the window, and when I went to see what's going on I noticed the pool water was wavy. I went outside and saw the little girl in the water and she was unconscious. I pulled her out and she wasn't breathing. I called the ambulance while trying to revive her. The ambulance arrived within 10 minutes and I genuinely thought she drowned, but thankfully they managed to save her. She is completely okay now. The thing is, I had no idea that her mom had already dropped her off. She didn't knock or anything, so she probably just left her in front of the house. Her mom also came when she found out and she was trying to blame me, telling me I tried to murder her daughter. I already told my husband that they didn't knock or enter the house and I had no idea the girl was even there. Everything became even more messy. Basically the woman kept on yelling at me, telling me how she's going to fight me and things like how she's going to hold me underwater, so I see how that feels. First off all, if it wasn't for my dog barking at the window I would have no idea the girl was in the pool and she would drown, because I had no fucking idea that the moron dropped her off in front of the house without even knocking or anything. I said this and she spit at me. The police ended up holding her back and then my husband came back too, and it was just so shitty. After this I got calls from her parents and they also tried to threaten me on phone, but I just shut them down. A couple other people who she said her version of this to called me, and yeah, same thing. I know, or at least feel like it's not my fault, but ATP I want to clarify more. I forgot to say that I do have a fence around the house, in the backyard, and it's usually locked, but that day it wasn't, which I know is my fault. Also, as I said, this is my house. This was the first time the girl was here, so I have no idea why would her mom just drop her off in front of a house she's never been to, and no idea why did the girl go for the pool when she couldn't have seen it from the street. Why did she go to backyard? I'm not blaming her, I'm just explaining. Also, my country doesn't have a law for fence directly around the pool, there is usually a cover, but I wanted the water to get warmer. I don't live here, but I'm currently renovating. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, I'd also be putting up a doorbell camera and fencing that pool ASAP. Commenter 2. Louder, and fencing that pool ASAP. Commenter 3. Just out of curiosity, is pool fencing not mandatory in America? I'm an Aussie, and we have mandatory laws across the country that require pools to have fences, to greater or lesser degrees. There's penalties if you don't comply. We run TV ads that warn about the risk of child drowning, etc. I live in a world where I can't imagine a pool not having a fence. Commenter 4. I can't speak for all states, but for most a fence is required. That said, a fence around your backyard in many states suffices, and a second one around the pool is not. I'm wondering the little girl didn't go straight to the backyard because she wanted to get into the pool. It always scares me, they're so enticing for little ones. Commenter 5. Of course it's not your fault, it's the mother's. But you need to get ahead of this immediately. Start telling everyone everywhere your side of the story and exactly what the mother did. Otherwise, because I've seen this before, you'll be crucified in the court of public opinion and it will ruin your social standing, destroy your relationship with your in-laws, and result in divorce. You have to fix the narrative of what really happened in people's heads, or they will all believe the mother. NTA. Commenter 6. I would also set up hidden outside cameras, if she just drops the daughter off and drives away. Commenter 7. Check with your neighbors, they might have caught it on their cameras. Update. Since my post had a lot of views and comments, I feel like I should post a final update. I won't fully go into details, but my husband talked to his daughter, I still haven't spoken to her or seen her since, and he asked her what happened. So they arrived to the back of the house and not actually to the front because they thought that was the front, which is fine. Still, the mom did just drop her off and drove away thinking she's going to knock on the door and come inside. Thankfully, neighbor's camera actually caught one side of the car and it very obviously shows that the car stopped for not more than 30 seconds, and since it caught the driver's side, it's visible that the driver, the mom, didn't exit the car and drove away. So the girl said that she was going to knock on the door, but she saw a frog in the grass by the pool and wanted to pick it and bring inside. Gate for the backyard was open and she went inside, frog was running away from her and fell in the pool. She tried to reach for the frog and fell inside. Even though what happened was horrible, thankfully she is okay now and it didn't cause any serious damage. I already said in my previous post that the gate was unlocked, but, even worse, she walked in through other side which was completely open. Thankfully the pool wasn't covered, because if she stepped on the cover it would literally trap her inside. I feel really bad for what happened, knowing that part of leaving the gate open was my fault, but at least the worst outcome didn't happen. I won't share any more about anything related to situation with mom and police. Comments. Commenter 1. Wow, so she knows she was the one who almost killed her kid and she still had the nerve to blame you and spit on you. She abandoned a 5-year-old in front of a house neither had ever been to and just drove off. Commenter 2. Worse, actually at the back of the house rather than the front. Reply. The back looks similar to front, so I get that she didn't see, but still the gate was open, she saw that. Commenter 3. Maybe if she had gotten out of the car instead of practically dumping her kid out she would have figured it out and her kid wouldn't have almost died. Commenter 4. Exactly. I would never have dropped off my 5-year-old kid and just driven off, anywhere, let alone at a house as he's never been to. What if no one was home? What if OP had an emergency and had to run to the grocery store to get a pint of Ben & Jerry's? Commenter 5. Again, NTA, that child should never have been dropped off without her mother making sure that she got safely inside your house. Please get locks and additional safety measures for your pool. And give yourself some grace. OOP, the mom doesn't really interact with me. Person shrugging, light skin tone female sign. If I text her something about her daughter, she just leaves me on scene and answers through my husband. I guess she didn't want to see me or whatever, but I don't understand how can she willingly leave her kid with someone she doesn't even want to interact with. Commenter 6. Did the child's mother know that there was a pool in the backyard? You said she had never been there before and didn't know the back of the house was not the front. Could she see the pool through the open gate at the point where she dropped the child off? Reply. She knew about the pool, but also since they came from the back of the house and the gate was open, she could see the pool from the street. Commenter 7. That makes her negligence suspicious as hell. Stories number 21. I, 26F, broke my wrist and my husband, 28M, won't help me out with driving. Where do I go from here? A couple days ago I was doing yard work and I tripped and fell and broke my wrist. It's in a cast and will be for at least 4 weeks. I work full-time in person about 30 minutes away from home. I took the last 2 days off from work, but I need to go back on Monday. I can't drive my car because it is stick shift and the wrist I broke is on the arm I use to shift. I can't grab the shifter to change gears, so I can't drive it. My husband drives an automatic, and while it wouldn't be the greatest thing, I could drive it. I asked him if he would mind switching cars with me until I am able to shift gears again. He said no because he doesn't like driving my car. I taught him how and he's used it before, he just doesn't like it. So I asked if he would drive me to and from work, at least a few times per week. He also said no because he doesn't want to wake up early. He works 3 shifts per week in the evenings. I would be home with his car before he had to leave for work. He would also have time to drive me home from work without being late for work. I am also the breadwinner and we need the money I make from working. He told me I should just Uber, but it would be at least $60 per day and I can't afford that. I feel unsupported. I get the situation sucks, but a couple years ago when his car wasn't working, I let him use my car. He worked more back then, 5 days per week. So I let him use it to go to work and also to go out with friends and stuff. So I feel I am not being reciprocated. He doesn't owe me for that, but also he isn't willing to help me out with this, and the inconvenience for letting me use his car is much less for him because he'd be sleeping when I was using it. Where do I go from here? Am I asking or expecting for too much? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. He needs to step up or GTFO. Tell him he's being immature and lame, and if he doesn't let you use his car you'll just take time off from work and he can pay all the bills. Considering you do all the yard work, it shouldn't be a big ask. Reply. We can't make it on just his income alone. And I won't be able to pay my part in full if I have to spend $60 per day for Uber. I don't know what he expects to happen. I also don't do all the yard work, I was just doing some and fell. I was picking up sticks and leaves from the winter so he could mow the lawn. Commenter 2, he kind of does owe you, though, because a marriage is a partnership. He does need to step up here. Reply, I agree he needs to step up. But he doesn't owe me. I mean, I didn't let him use my car so one day I could throw in his face, well, I let you use my car. But also I did. And the inconvenience was greater for me than it would be for him. Commenter 3, assuming you work a job where this is theoretically possible, I would ask for work from home accommodations while you recover. Given that you have a cast, the medical eligibility should not be in question. That would be the first thing. As for the rest, your husband is being unreasonable, but if he wants to deduct $120 from his paycheck to cover your Uber in each direction, well, something tells me he'll spin that to be your responsibility. But I don't understand his mentality, as part of getting married is having someone to support you when you need it. Getting up early or making do with a manual is pretty light support, assuming you can't get a WFH accommodation. I'm sure if the roles were reversed, you would have no trouble waking up early to drive him to work. I'm not sure what arguments you can use on him, because you need to convince him he should care about the love of his life, which isn't something that should need to be argued. I will say that my dad was like your husband, and well, his adult kids never talked to him and there's a reason he got divorced and never remarried. Reply, I can't do work from home, I asked. But with the broken wrist, I will be on light duty. Not exactly sure what that will entail, but that's the plan. My boss is kind and said we will figure it out, so I am not on FMLA unpaid or something like that. But her kindness can only go so far, she can't disregard company policy. I also would inconvenience myself for him. I have when I let him use my car for over a month. He was working more days and I had to shift my schedule at work so I'd be back home in time for him to take the car. I'm lucky my boss let me do it. It made it much harder to do things like grocery shop or see family. But I did it because I love and support him and he needed to get to work. Commenter 4. I'm so sorry you are stuck with a husband like this and just finding out now that he won't support you if it means making his own life even the tiniest bit harder. You're supposed to be partners. Would any of your friends or family members be willing to switch cars? It might be time to consider whether you want to continue in this marriage considering he won't take on the slightest inconvenience to help you through an injury. Reply, I don't have family nearby unfortunately. I also don't feel comfortable using someone else's car, other than my husband's, in case I get into an accident or something. I'm very shocked by this. It makes me feel I put more thought and effort into our relationship than he does. Commenter, if you haven't already, please don't have children with this man. He will never be supportive when you're sick or injured, as he's proving now. You will be the breadwinner, cook, maid, and expected booty call. Don't do that to yourself. If you can't learn him, get your tubes tied and spare your potential children. Reply, children were never part of our plan, so that's not a concern. Can OOP take public transportation? Reply, public transport isn't really a viable option because it's at least 2.5 hours each way. Where I live does not have good public transport, so even though I work nearby two major employers, there is no bus route or anything. I'd have to switch buses at least 7 times. Commenter, no, you don't have to think of that or look into it. The car is there for you to use. Just take his fucking car. If you're going to leave when he's asleep and be back before he wakes up, just take the fucking car. Reply, the car is not in my name though, I can't just take it. I know he wouldn't report it as stolen, but still. I don't have a legal right to it. Commenter, I would be home with his car before he had to leave for work. Why can't you both just drive his car then? You don't even have to switch cars. You take the car in the morning and then get home before he has to leave. Like what could possibly be the issue here if that's your schedule? So you have to fill it up with gas a little more often for these few weeks, okay? Is he going places during the day before he goes to work and that's why he wants his car? Do you know everywhere he goes during the day? I would be concerned about this. Reply, that's what I don't get. He is definitely sleeping the whole time, I do know that. If not, I don't know when he would be sleeping. He goes to sleep right around the same time I go to work and wakes up around when I get back. I don't know why he won't let me take it while he sleeps. He says it's in case I have to work late and he can't get to work. But if that happened, he would have my car. And also I rarely work late and when I do, it's because I decide to stay to finish something I started. But it can always be continued the next day. Sometimes I decide to stay, sometimes I don't. But at this time, I'd never stay to finish. Update, I got a lot of advice on my last post. Some helpful, some not. A lot of people slammed him for not working more. I want to clear that up. He was working the same amount of hours as I was. Sometimes more. But his hours got cut at work. He's been looking for a new job or second one, but hasn't had much luck. I know he has been looking and putting in effort. That's not an issue, but I sat down with him and said that we really need to talk about this, because I had to go to work today, Monday. I sat down and told him I get he is having a hard time with his hours being cut and trying to navigate the job market. But I have a good job and I need to get there. And I can't afford to Uber a car while I heal. We need to find a solution. He kept talking in circles with the same reasons I mentioned in the last post. I don't know exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, that is not good enough for me. I don't accept those reasons and I don't think they're true. What is the actual reason? We are married and partners, why am I left hanging like this? He finally told me the truth. Since his hours got cut, he hasn't been maintaining his car. He had savings and maintained his car when he worked more, but when his hours got cut, he started using his savings to pay his part of the bills. And when it ran low, he finally let me readjust our spending. I pushed for it from the start, but he refused. But when his savings ran low, his car started having problems and he couldn't afford to fix it. He needs new tires. He needs new brakes. The AC stopped working. And he also is well overdue for an oil change. He used to keep up with this stuff, but hasn't because he is low on money. He was ashamed and didn't want me to use his car or ride in it because he didn't want me to know how bad it was. He was embarrassed so he never brought it up. So he has been driving an unsafe car and didn't want me to drive it. After a very long talk, we came to a solution. I will buy him used tires. They need to be done, but can wait a week as we look and get this set up. Yesterday we replaced the brake pads and do an oil change. I couldn't physically help, but I read him steps and look at things when he wasn't sure. His dad also helped over FaceTime. Between our brains, we figured it out. We decided not to mess with the AC because that's a comfort thing and not necessary, especially during this time of year. So in all, he was having a private struggle I wasn't aware of. I usually don't go in his car, so I never noticed. And this morning, he drove me to and from work. And either he will drive me or I will drive myself, with his permission. Depends on the day. I knew he was struggling with the lack of income and I have been pushing and pushing for him to let me do more. But he held out due to pride. And his car suffered. And honestly, I think I might do the same thing. I still feel a bit betrayed and the trust has eroded a bit. But at the same time, I also feel like I got closer to him. It's a weird feeling I can't fully explain. But in the end, I can get to work with his help. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, make sure to give yourselves points for talking this out. Whenever someone asks what's the most important thing in a relationship, communication is always the winner. Because without it, you can't do anything else. And your ability to have awkward and difficult conversations that stay respectful and clear is going to go along with the success of your relationship. I don't recall if I mentioned this in your first post, but you both may find the book The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, by John Gottman and Nan Silver, to be a good read. Gottman did research on married couples, and found behaviors that went with happy marriages, and other behaviors that went with marriages that ended in divorce. Great things to know if you are in a relationship. Reply, communication is key. We have always been great communicators with the hard stuff. I guess this time his shame didn't let him let me in this time, but he eventually did and we worked it out and I think that made us stronger. I am hurt still because he didn't let me in before, but I also get why he didn't. Commenter 2, right. It is understandable, and emotions make us do these kinds of things. But he saw that telling you the truth was the right thing to do, and as long as you don't tease or belittle him for what he did, he's more likely to trust you and talk to you sooner in the future. Reply, I would never ever tease him for opening up. When he finally opened up about this, my brain was focused on comforting him and solutions we can do together. That's always my go-to. I am hurt he hid it, but I also see why he did. I am also hurt by the lies and the reasoning. But also thankful he opened up finally. So it's hard to know how exactly I feel, lol. But overall, thankful he opened up. But it didn't have to go this far. Stories number 22. AITA for moving into the house I inherited. Even though the lodger doesn't feel comfortable around men, I inherited a house that came with a lodger with a 6-year-old that is renting one of the rooms. She is upset because I have, in her words, made it terrifying to live here since I've moved in. She doesn't feel safe with her and her daughter living with a man she just met and that she wants to stay away from men because of issues with her ex. That's why living with an old woman felt so safe. By the way, this is all being communicated through notes. She's been leaving because she avoids me. I've already wrote back that she can move out whenever. She left another note saying she will, but she really doesn't want to have to because the reason she moved in here was so her daughter could go to the school district here, and the only way she was able to afford to live here is because her lease is just for $150, for utilities and housework, and they might have to move back in with her ex. So basically she wants me to move out. I don't want to because the house still has a mortgage that I would have to continue to pay in addition to paying for rent somewhere else. There technically is the option to get a female tenant. However, the prices for renting a single bedroom won't cover the mortgage and I can't afford to make up the difference. Plus I'd have to deal with my grandma's things faster than I want to. Another big thing is I can avoid tax reassessment on the house if I move in within a year. Which is also why selling is definitely off the table. Stories number 23. Owner is forcing us to use expired product at my second job. I live paycheck to paycheck even with 2 jobs. I am only here until I have to be, and I have applications out for other employment. I have been getting evidence slowly over time and have another employee on my side. The owner was always hard on us, but now he's desperate and paranoid. I think he cares about keeping this place afloat more than his own family. The 2 managers are on the owner's side, too. I am afraid of retaliatory action like him withholding my pay until I am able to leave safely. The rent was due on the 1st, and I don't get paid next till this Friday. Commenter. He's paranoid because that is some bullshit. I would start looking for somewhere else to work. Reply. He is standing over the line, watching cooks and stalking all employees when we refill product. He actually instituted a phone lockup policy just last week, and now this. Believe me, I am looking for a new job. I don't think he saw me take this picture because he was busy with another employee. Commenter. Report his ass to health department. Document and take pictures of anything that you can. If the owner tries any shit, make sure he does some of it via text so you have more paper trails. Like, sure, you can leave, but this behavior doesn't stop. And if no one ever reports it or outs it to the public, then it keeps going. Update, owner is forcing us to use expired product at my second job, May 7th, 2025, one day after. Yesterday, I posted about the owner of the restaurant I worked at forcing us to serve expired products. After posting, I worked for another couple hours before I sat down for my second break of the day and read a bunch of the comments. A lot of people were pointing out that I had let my own personal needs go above other people. Which yes, I did, but I don't want to hurt anyone. I took everyone's advice and found the number from my county health department on Google and called them. I had to wait on hold for a while but finally managed to speak to a nice enough lady. I asked to remain anonymous, and she took the details of my report. I still think the owner will know it was me because of what happened and the timing, but on paper, it's anonymous. When I was done, I came back into the restaurant and managed to sneak a few more pictures of other expired products like meat and other produce. After that, I confronted the owner when he came back into the kitchen. He was already looking for me since I was way over the length of my break. I told him I was quitting, and he got super angry and told me he needed me for the dinner rush. I told him I didn't care and wanted my paycheck. He initially refused until I told him if he didn't pay me, I would go make a scene in the lobby. To which he relented. He paid me for the days I've worked in cash minus yesterday and had me sign something he typed up stating he'd paid me. Yes, I did read it and took a picture of it. I'm officially down to one job now and going to be struggling to cover bills this month, but hey, I did the right thing. I'm also afraid of retaliatory action because I'm trans and where I live very few people are accepting. The owner was already desperate, and he has my personal information on my employment documents. I'm hoping nothing happens, but does anyone have advice just in case? It wasn't always this way. He was always tough on us and actually ran a good restaurant. But over the past month to month and a half, he changed a lot. He got more angry and aggressive. He started letting his standards slip. Over the past 2 weeks, he has been at the restaurant from before, open to after close instead of the normal half day he used to be in for. Commenter, a micromanager, aka a bad manager, who encouraged unsanitary food practices was doomed to fail anyway, sooner or later. He definitely won't see it that way. His kind never do, everything is someone else's fault. Many of the problems in our society stem from the ownership class getting away with wrongdoing because the working class are too afraid of losing what little they have to stand up to wrongdoing. You did the right thing. That will be small comfort to you while money is tight, but in the long run, you'll be better for it. Hopefully he won't fixate on you or connect you to the report, but that's out of your control. As another commenter suggests, keep a close eye on your financials and personal info. Reply, it wasn't always this way. He was always tough on us and actually ran a good restaurant. But over the past month to month and a half, he changed a lot. He got more angry and aggressive. He started letting his standards slip. Over the past 2 weeks, he has been at the restaurant from before, open to after close instead of the normal half day he used to be in for. Commenter, it pretty much has to be because he's hemorrhaging money. If he was a good manager before, then he's cracked under the strain and become a bad one. A good manager would know that micromanaging staff and serving composted lettuce won't turn things around and save the business. The right thing to do in this scenario is to plan to close the business as soon as you see the writing on the wall, give the staff as much notice as possible so they can start looking for new employment, and accept the coming hardships. But very few want to do that, even though ultimately everyone, owner included, would end up in a better position. Reply, it wasn't just lettuce, it was everything. Meats, fruits, veggies, sauces. Everything was beginning to smell and or rot, nothing was getting thrown away. Be commenter, watch your credit and keep an eye on your identity if you think the jackass you thankfully no longer work for will use them against you. I really hope that doesn't happen, of course, but I would advise that you keep an eye on things like your credit, if anyone opens credit cards in your name, falsified loan agreements, etc. I don't think it's super likely to happen, but I just want you to be cautious and safe. I hope things work out well for you. Update, my former boss came to my apartment, May 13, 2025, 6 days after. About a week ago, I called the county health department on the restaurant I used to work at and my now former boss, the owner of the restaurant. Well, it seems they took my report seriously. This past Sunday, after my phone call and quitting my job, my phone blew up right in the middle of the Mother's Day lunch rush around 12:30 to 1 p.m. One of my former coworkers that I'm on good terms with informed me that a health inspector stopped by for an unannounced emergency inspection. Stating they had received an anonymous tip, the owner tried everything to keep them out of the kitchen and stall them, but eventually, they got into the back and saw everything. They saw the now even more disgusting product they were still serving mixed in with some apparently new fresh product, and 2 of my former coworkers, including one of the managers, tried to clean things up. The health inspector freaked out and shut down the restaurant on the spot. According to my former coworker, my former boss blew up at the health inspector, screaming, cursing, and begging them to reconsider. But the inspector wouldn't budge. Everyone was told to go home immediately. As my former coworker was heading to his car in the parking lot, he overheard my boss talking to one of the managers. They were wondering who tipped off the health department. After a couple of minutes of talking, my former boss screamed my dead, legal, name, and they started cursing and calling me several transphobic slurs in pure rage. Having an adult tantrum in front of his employees and customers alike. At the time, I was out watching Thunderbolts * with a friend and wasn't paying too much attention to my phone. But after the movie we decided to go to her place and just hang out. I finally took a look at the texts in the car and had a panic attack. My friend comforted me and assured me everything would be fine. After I calmed down, we went to her place. We played games and had a nice dinner, but then I got a notification from my Ring doorbell on my phone. I took a look and the camera was being covered. I asked who was there, and I heard my former boss's voice. I froze in fear. Even not being there in person, knowing he was at my apartment, scared me. He told me he knew I was home because he saw my car in one of the parking spaces. I wasn't, but he didn't know that. I had ridden with my friend for a nice day out. He told me he just wanted to talk and return a couple of things I left at the restaurant. I told him to leave or I'd call the police and leave whatever it was in front of my door. He started to get angry and pounded on my door even harder, screaming at me to talk to him. I told my friend to call the police and after another minute or two he finally turned and left. He was wearing sunglasses and a baseball hat, I guess, to try and hide his face. We did actually call the police and were asked to meet them at my apartment. When we got there, surprise, there was nothing in front of my door and he didn't put anything there from what I could see on the Ring camera. I explained the situation, and we filled out a police report. They have the footage from my Ring of him walking up, covering the camera, and then walking away. I picked up some clothing and essentials from my apartment, and I've been staying at my friend's apartment since I'm scared to go home. Nothing new has happened since Sunday, and I haven't heard anything from the police, my former boss, or even my former coworkers. I'm still paranoid and scared for my safety. Now I'm in a horrible situation where I feel like I should have just kept my mouth shut. I'm out of a job. I even called out of work from my current job because I'm not mentally well. I'm short on money to keep myself afloat, and now I'm scared I'm going to get shot by an angry, desperate man who just lost everything he built for himself. I'm taking what precautions I can, but I don't really know what else to do. Does anyone have any advice? Commenter: the Second Amendment, for starters. It's for everyone. Take advantage of it. Next, good on you. You did a good service to that restaurant's customers that they'll never know you did for them and you're now paying for it personally. This is typically the hallmark of a kind and empathetic person. Had someone lost their life to food poisoning, you know the ripple from that is far worse than a restaurant closure. Even a permanent restaurant closure isn't as bad as a person dying from food poisoning. So, chin up. You did a good thing, walk forward in that knowing you are a person who does the right thing even if it means you eat some shit over it. That makes you a solid good person in my book. You don't exist to make other people happy or cover for their incompetence. Why are we here? No clue, but not for that. Reply: believe me, I know about the Second Amendment. I live in Texas, and people won't shut up about it. Being trans here is absolutely awful. That's also why I'm scared of getting shot because I know my former boss has multiple firearms. Relevant comments. Commenter: go to your local courthouse or call the desk at the police department to inquire if this falls within your location's qualifications for a restraining protective order. The video should be more than enough after everything that's happened. Commenter: also inform the health department about retaliation. That's a crime too. Commenter: good job calling the police. If it was another era pre-cameras everywhere and no cell phones it could have gotten scary. You have your Ring camera on, solid. I would also ensure to carry pepper spray when outside and don't use headphones in public spaces. If this was another era, there would be more old school advice to give but it's not appropriate in this format. Commenter: my advice is don't give in to the fear. Dig down and go to your new job. Be around people who aren't hostile to you, doing normal things. What gets people through these situations is renormalizing and not letting the event stretch out forever. Would be great if you can couch surf for a few days with the friend you were talking about, but try to go home and reclaim your life as soon as you can. This is a tough one but you'll get through it, and you'll feel stronger afterwards. You did the right thing by calling the health department, probably saved some people from getting sick. Stories number 24. Tofu by accidentally becoming a Catholic priest. As with most of these stories, this didn't happen today, but several months ago. I had a day off from work and decided to have some alone time. Being the religious man I am, I went and drove to the local cathedral of my state and sat on the steps, reading the Bible, overlooking the city below, and just enjoying some peace and quiet. It was a chilly fall day, and I was leaning against a pillar, resting on the steps, when a woman approached me. "Excuse me, do you know what the photography policy is here? Do you know where we're allowed to take pictures?" I glanced behind the woman and saw a group of about 10 men and women in their nicest formal attire. I particularly noticed a woman with her hair nicely done, wearing a long, flowing white dress. Obviously, this was a wedding party here to take some photos, and the woman I was speaking to was the photographer. As it so happened, I actually did know the photography policy for the cathedral. My wife is an avid photographer, and we had taken photos from the hill overlooking the city just a few weeks prior. I got up and walked over to the couple, along with the photographer. I pointed out the approved photo spots, explained the policy to the group, and told them about some other parts of the cathedral that would make for excellent shots without violating any of the guidelines. I also gave my most heartfelt congratulations to the couple, wishing them well and an amazing wedding day. Everyone was so thankful and happy to have run into me. As I turned to leave, the couple asked if they could take a photo with me. Odd, I thought, but why not? We took a quick photo on the steps before I got ready to leave. As I was getting ready to depart, the wife and photographer approached me. The wife said, "Thank you so much for your help, Father. It's really great that the clergy here are so welcoming and helpful. We're from out of state, getting married here because our family wants us to. I appreciate your time with your busy schedule." I froze. I glanced down at myself. I'm dressed in a nice shirt and slacks with a cross necklace hanging out, but I definitely didn't look like a priest. Maybe she thought I was a priest in casual attire. No idea. Unsure of what to do, all I said was congratulations again before quickly heading to my car and getting out of there. To this day, I realize that some couple has a wedding photo with me in it and a story about the nice priest who helped them out. Felt too awkward at the time to inform them of their error. So, I guess I was promoted, just from being in the right place at the right time. My wife will be surprised to learn we are suddenly Catholic, and I am now a priest. TLDR, minding my own business on the cathedral steps when a wedding party asks for help. Help them, they mistake me for a priest, and my dumb but was too awkward to correct them. Stories number 25. AITA for refusing to return a dog that I adopted to his original owner. About a little over a year ago I went through probably the worst time in my adult life. I was engaged and I found out my fiancé was cheating on me. I was living in a condo he owned, and even though he wanted to try to make things work, I couldn't do it, so I left and moved home temporarily. Moving home at 32 wasn't in my plans, and it all took a toll on me mentally and emotionally. I was sad, embarrassed, and my mental health wasn't good. Fortunately, I have supportive parents, an awesome job that let me take a leave, and got my mental health back to at least stable. For quite a while eating and sleeping were a major struggle, and finding motivation wasn't great. After a lot of therapy and tough work I started to feel somewhat human again, but still very much sad. I found an apartment and I had been considering adopting a pet. I talked it over with my therapist and she told me she thought it could be good for me to look into. I went to a local rescue thinking I would find a puppy I could raise and care for. What I didn't expect was finding an older dog, he's 7, who had been given up when his owners were expecting a child. He was so sad, and honestly a bigger breed than I was as thinking of, but I grew up with dogs. The woman at the rescue told me of his backstory. His owner had him prior to getting married, and the wife wanted the dog gone because she felt he wouldn't be safe around her baby. He had no history of aggression and just seemed timid and depressed. I instantly connected with this dog. We went for a walk and I knew I would be taking him home with me. That was almost 10 months ago, and I honestly have to say we have made each other's lives dramatically better. I cook for him, we watch movies, he is amazing motivation for me to get out and walk every day. I have human friends of course, but this dog is my bestie and I can't imagine not having him. This brings us to the issue at hand. Apparently the people who surrendered him realize that the wife forcing the dog out is now a mistake. They have contacted the rescue, who in turn have contacted me. I was absolutely floored that they would even ask me if I was willing to speak with his ex-family. Apparently there is something where I guess pregnant women become fearful or whatever with animals. The husband never wanted to give the dog up, but it was an ultimatum the wife gave. I told them there was no way I would be willing to traumatize my dog or give him back to people who just tossed him away. I feel the fact they were even asking this upset me, because animals aren't just something you toss away or whatever and then get to change your mind. I asked them not to contact me again, and blocked the rescue on social media because I was afraid his old owner would find me there. I can't imagine being pressured to give up someone like a dog you had for years, but I feel like that isn't my problem. Losing him would be horrible for both of us. I feel like we found each other for a reason. Am I being selfish, or am I in the right here? Update. I just want to thank most of the people who commented. It made me feel a lot more justified in my feelings and how I reacted. I appreciate all of your feedback. Stories number 26. AITA for locking up my valuables in my house. I, 21F, and my boyfriend, 23M, have been living together for 2 years. There has always been a bit of money struggle as I used to make more than him and have usually been picking up the slack in our household. However, I have started a new job and am earning a lot less than before, so I've started to be more cautious about the amount I am spending. During our relationship I would usually buy all of his toiletries and most household products. I told him I would not be doing this anymore as I need to cut down my own spending, and he also works and is capable of buying things on his own. I thought we had agreed to this, but as time has gone on I've noticed all of my expensive skin care and even my own deodorant being used up really quickly. I asked him multiple times to please not use my stuff and even bought him his own skin care so that he could have his own things. The thing that set me off was that I had bought myself a $220 face wash that is only supposed to be used sparingly. I have horrible eczema that I have prescriptions for, and the products I buy are specifically for my eczema. I hadn't used it in a while, and when I picked up the bottle it was empty. He laughed and said he would replace it and then refused when he learned of the price. I took inventory of everything else I owned and found out he had used up to $800 worth of product in around 3 months. I know he isn't naive because I tell him the price of everything I get and tell him not to use them. I ended up buying a safe that I put under the sink, and I put everything I had left inside and hid the key so when I go to shower and get ready I can use my own things and not worry about not affording to keep my skin in check. When he found out he lost it and said that I was overreacting and that I don't trust him. It's turned into a massive deal and my friends think I'm being harsh. I simply cannot afford to keep buying more skincare, and I've even been hospitalized this year due to a huge flare-up I had after running out of products. He's taking it very seriously and I don't know what else to do as I've already tried asking. Am I the asshole? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. This is person who is not at the same level of maturity you are. He does not respect you nor your things. Is this how you want to be doing things in a relationship, hiding them? Reply. I agree that I don't want to be hiding things, but I also think that skincare is not as bad as stealing money or sentimental items, so I don't think he's a bad boyfriend. I just wish he would listen to me. Face with tears of joy. Commenter 2. It is as bad as he stole $800 from you. Reply. Okay, yeah, you kinda have a point. Top comments. Commenter 1. I mean NTA, but if you're at the buy a safe because I can't trust him to not use my stuff stage, just break up. Commenter 2. Came here to say the same. It's amazing how things can gradually go to shit in a relationship, and it happens so slow people don't realize how fucked up things have become. Commenter 3. Why do people stay with people like this? You are locking up your stuff in a safe so he doesn't steal it and he's getting mad at you for it. Do you see how ridiculous that is? He has absolutely no respect for you. Here, wow, I didn't think I would receive this many comments so quick. Thank you guys for validating me as I was feeling really crap before I posted this. I definitely need to think over some things and have a chat with him. He's actually a really good guy apart from this, but it's worrying if this sort of behavior continues. Think I'm going to consider getting my own place for now. Update. Wow, I didn't think I was going to get so much of response. Thank you guys for shattering my rose-tinted glasses. I had a talk with one of my friends who said they had no idea that he was taking more than $10 products, which explains why they all thought I was being harsh. Unfortunately, we share a friend group, so breaking up was looking really hard. Until I sat him down for a talk to try to convey why I don't trust him anymore and how important my skincare is. The conversation went on for some time and I actually thought he may be turning a new leaf until he told me that in our first year of being together as a couple, when I had a few flare-ups before finding some good products that worked for me, he had been taking my oral steroids that I was prescribed with, thinking that they would make him buff at the gym. The whole year I battled through with insecurities and unbearable pain because I wasn't able to overcome my flare-ups. Honestly, that was the thing that snapped me completely. I'm staying at my friend's house for a week and letting him pack his things and figure out a place to go. Thanks again to everyone who was so kind and helped me realize how stupid I was being. Final comments. Commenter 1. Did he even notice a change in his sleeping habits? Tougher to fall asleep when taking the pills? Reply. I assume he was taking them in the morning because that's when we would go to the gym and around the time I would take them myself. I remember the doctor refusing to give me more after some time because of how dangerous it is to keep taking steroids that strong. I wish I wasn't so stupid back then because I felt crazy that I was misplacing my medication. Stories number 27. AITA for yelling at my friend cause she almost got us into a car accident. I'm 19F, my friend is also a 19F. She got her license about 2 months ago. I'm older by a few months and got mine when I was 18, on my birthday. So I have about a year and some months over her when it comes to driving experience. I usually drive to work, and follow traffic laws. I've never gotten pulled over or gotten a speeding ticket, so far. Yesterday, me and my friend and her boyfriend went out for dinner. She offered to drive me home, which worked out cause my mom had the car anyways. After dinner, her boyfriend sat in the back seat immediately, which I found a little odd but brushed it off for him wanting us to sit together in the front. When we started driving, the first thing I noticed was she didn't do a complete stop at a stop sign. This wouldn't usually bother me if there was absolutely no one there, but it was a little busy and she barely stopped and just gunned it. The other cars were visible but not close enough. I didn't say anything cause it was fine. Then, she needed gas. So we stopped at a gas station. This is where I may be the asshole. As we were coming out of the gas station, my friend didn't look at all at the incoming traffic and just sped out. We nearly got hit and it was on my side, so I physically flinched and said, "Watch out." The other car honked at us, but we kept on going. And once we did, I told my friend, "Why didn't you look? Do you know how dangerous that was?" She was quiet, told me a soft, "sorry," and kept going. Even her boyfriend chimed in, "You didn't even look," and she just got more quiet. When we got to my place, I asked if she was okay and she told me that I can't just yell at her while she drives cause that's more dangerous since she's distracted. I said, "I get that, but that car had the right of way and you just came straight out without even a glance in the opposite direction. We all could have gotten hurt or possibly even killed if the other driver wasn't paying attention." She said it still wasn't right for me to react, cause then she got scared and thought that I'd yell at her at how she's messing up like her mom or dad. I said, "But your parents aren't here, and you were being reckless. That other car's bumper was basically at my side of the window. I would have gotten the most serious damage if we did crash. I'm obviously going to react if it's my or anyone else's life on the line. Just cause you passed your driver's license exam doesn't mean you're a pro." She said that I wasn't a pro either and that I've only had mine for a year, which is true. But I've been driving for a year more than she has. I have more experience no matter what. So, AITA for overreacting at my friend being a reckless driver. She's still mad at me now and her boyfriend is saying I hurt her feelings by insinuating she was a bad driver. Stories number 28. Is my parents' advice destroying my job search? Since I came home from my first year of college in May, I've been looking for a new job to no success. I haven't even gotten so far as to be interviewed, despite having been on a job hunt since May. Finally, in mid-July, I'm getting a glimmer of hope. The bakery department at the supermarket where I've been a part-time cashier bagger for over 2 years now is seeking help. Not only would I enjoy working at the bakery, but I would receive more hours. I'm very hopeful that I will get this job, because I have always exceeded expectations in every performance review, and am overall a very good employee. However, I worry that the advice my parents are giving me might screw up my chances of getting this job. My parents, who have both not had to worry about getting a job since the earlier 90s, tell me to visit the manager and check in on the application at least once a day, or call to check in on it. I feel like this would be very annoying for the manager, and I don't want to come off as annoying. Earlier this summer, I was applying to a coffee shop and took their advice. I went in every day, asked for the manager and explained who I was, that I had applied and that I just wanted to check in on the application. My parents even told me to call later in the day too, which I refused to do, thinking it would just be nagging. I apparently made an impact there, because the third time I came into the coffee shop, the head barista looked at me, sighed very loudly and said, "I'll go get him." 5 minutes later, I was being interviewed by the manager. For 1 minute, literally. I was asked 3 questions, which were just to verify information on the application, and then told to stop calling them. They never called back. My parents still tell me to call them. I feel like it's beating a dead horse at this point. I'm worried that the advice my parents are giving me is one of the reasons why I seem to struggle to get a job. They tell me that nothing has changed in the almost 20 years since they've gotten their jobs, and that what worked for them will work for me. I really want to get this position in the bakery. What advice would you give me, or are my parents' strategy correct? Update. Sometimes when work is slow, I like to hit "surprise me" on your website, and I was truly surprised when I came across a question I had sent in over 8 years ago. I remembered that I had emailed you, exasperated with my parents' advice, and you had responded. I felt so validated and reassured by what you said. I did, funnily enough, become a barista later on. But I was a liberal arts major and that was my fate. A few years after the incident I had emailed about, my parents relocated for my father's work. My mother then got to experience, firsthand, the joys of modern job hunting. I had to show her how to make a resume, how to turn it into a PDF, and how to upload it, and reassure her that yes, even though you just uploaded that PDF you now have to retype all of that information again. She had relocated to the other side of the country, and had no network or any modern tools one uses to get a job nowadays. She didn't even bother to check to see what the process was to transfer her nursing licenses, and spent months unemployed while that was getting figured out. I think she just thought she could walk into a hospital and get a job, just like she had in the 90s. Experiencing their bad advice firsthand ended most of their vintage notions. I'm now newly 27. Your advice was to trust my instincts, and I have. I worked a myriad of odd jobs during and after college, and kind of flitted around trying to figure myself out. My parents offered lots of advice for what I should do, and I have done none of it. After settling into an office job a few years ago, I just accepted a position as an office manager, which will come with a 25% raise. A great thing to get right before my wedding this winter. I read up your posts on negotiating salary and vacation time, and interviewing. You've been a resource for me for almost a decade now. Thank you for the validation you gave my younger self. She was new and deeply insecure, and you allowed her a moment where she could print out a blog post and yell, "See? You're the wrong one," at her poor, misguided mother. I think I may have even hung your response on our fridge. Hopefully, I'll never have to write for your advice again.